food for thought, all right? October 3rd, 2023, okay? Gene editing and designer babies, all right? Welcome to Food for Thought. I'm your host, Food Chops, all right? I made this little project because I believe that no subject is taboo if it's talked about in good faith. Now, good faith aside, all right? I also seek to combine the bloodbath days of the old internet, all right, with the peak intellectual discourse of today, all right? Here is how it will go, all right? The entire panel will have a start time, but with no designated end time. We will have our first wave of panelists, these lovely fellows right here, all right, who will almost definitely not stay for the rest of the panel, aka because it will be like 7 hours long, all right, almost definitely, okay, because of how long the panel is. After people jump out, which is most definitely gonna happen, all right, people can make their plea in chat, DMs, my DMs, Discord, and the waiting room about getting on. Stay in the waiting room. I noticed, I will be watching, all right, VC, so you can be dragged in. Then I will drag them in over the course of the night. If I do not drag you in, then I will either have missed you, or there are simply too many people, or I keep a certain number to keep the flow of conversation going. But typically, I'm very generous with who and how I drag people in, just like the old days of the internet, okay? However, that generosity comes at a price. If I find you annoying or disrespecting me, I can mute you to humiliate you in front of a lot of people, okay? Or simply kick you out of the room with the rest for the rest of the night, okay? Remember, when I tell everybody to chill or go one at a time, I mean it, okay? If you have been quiet for a significantly extended duration of time on the panel, I will also kick you without warning, just to reduce clutter on the screen. Unfortunately, due to how long the panel is, I might also have very rare internet hiccups. If I somehow suddenly disappear or stream crashes, the flow of the conversation must continue, and you guys must keep talking. After all, there are probably multiple streams going on in there anyway. Okay, I will probably ask a moderator of mine to keep the dragons and dragouts smooth. That will be all. Now, the actual topic, gene editing, okay? What the fuck is that squeaky noise? Stop fucking your plastic vagina. Okay, gene editing, all right? In 1997's movie Gattaca, humanity envisions imaginary ethicalities of a difference in a genetically enhanced class of people versus so-called natural borns. Now, in November 2018, a Chinese geneticist disabled genes that would enable HIV in 2 newborn baby daughters, technically the world's first quote-unquote designer babies, raising both hopes in medicine and alarm bells in ethics. CRISPR, clustered regularly interspaced short palindromic repeats. Gene editing can be a new win for people who have Huntington's disease passed along their ancestry. Life expectancy in HD is generally not high definition, definitely not high definition, generally around 10 to 30 years following the onset of visible symptoms. By the way, met somebody who has HD in their ancestry. Not pleasant, okay? That person had a 50-50 chance of dying by age 50. Not fun, all right? Since Huntington's is caused by genetic mutation, CRISPR editing would be able to cure or prevent the condition with a single treatment. While the prospects of curing genetic diseases are positive, people are also afraid that the technology will be used in ways one might perceive to be irresponsible. Just like in trends such as teaching your kids how to play a new trending sport or wearing a new popular Halloween costume found in a magazine, so-called genetically maximized and customized designer babies might be a thing of the near future. So come, let us delve into this topic. Where do we draw the line? Are we corrupting humanity's spirit? What are the philosophical implications? Do the medical pros outweigh the cons? Questions. Number 1. Autism is generally classified as a neurological and developmental disorder. However, this was not always the case. Autism was originally described as a form of childhood schizophrenia. If CRISPR gene editing was invented way back then, it might have been used on people on the spectrum. Where do we draw the line between illnesses that are bad and those that merely represent a different kind of being. How does editing out autism sound? Would this be considered too, quote unquote, problematic? Discuss.
I don't think it would be too problematic. Speaking, this is like starting out anecdotally, but I have autism, and I'd be perfectly fine if that shit would have got edited out. Probably would have made my school life a whole lot easier, my social experiences a whole lot better. Probably would have just experienced life in a whole lot of a better way. And again, that might be anecdotal, but I don't necessarily see a problem with it if we can demonstrate that there are beneficial things that could affect the life of the child beneficially or in a beneficial way.
So then, as a basis, do you look at it as an aggregate? If the aggregate child's life is going to be a lot better because of this, even if there's some 1 in a million case where they might have a better life with autism, you still choose to edit it out.
I think that we can take. I think we can take a utilitarian sense in that. And in that case, given the number, just going off the number that you gave, if there's a 1 in a million chance they have a better life with autism, but the other 999,000 or whatever, 999 whatever is better without autism, then yeah, we should probably edit it out.
I think the way I look at it is there's the obvious, right? There's people who have mental disorders where they'll never be functional, and we would all probably agree that in society, if we could, we would try to edit those things out, right? But it's really weird. I'm okay with gene editing, but I don't like the idea of gene editing just to change look characteristics. If it was editing to advance our physical characteristics in the sense of we could run faster, jump higher, do shit like that would be kind of cool. But autism, I sometimes I wonder if it is the case that autistic people might be better at certain tasks, and if that's the case, could why edit it out, and why not just see this is just a group of people we can work around and have them perform the tasks that they perform, but at a even better degree because we've put in effort to push them towards that direction.
Are you referencing savants and stuff?
No, not just savants. I think
I think it means just in general too. I think the issue with that is life is, let's say you're really good at, I don't know, you're autistic and you're really good at typing or organizing stuff, whatever you're good at, and you want to be a secretary, and that's your life. But there is more to life than that one thing that you're hyper focusing on. So it's kind of that's a symptom of it.
I think that autism is a trait that evolved alongside humanity, and people with severe autism that are disabled, that's they've lost the lottery. But I think that eliminating autism would actually eliminate something that is part of human functionality. Without autistic people, without people somewhere on the spectrum, we probably would have way less inventions. We probably would be way further behind as a society. I think we need autistic people.
I'm not sure how many.
I think the fact that there's a spectrum.
That autism it's ASD, autism spectrum disorder, right? So if you're imagining a world where you can turn on and off autism, that's kind of a really abstract thing.
Yeah.
I think if you can imagine a world where there are obviously a wealth of people with autism that are very functional and live very happy lives, and it maybe doesn't impact them negatively. But we also have to consider that there's people that have extremely severe autism, and you can look at parents of children with extremely severe autism who will never live independently, right? Who they will always have to be caretakers for their children, right?
Yeah.
And when these kids, if it's a boy who grows up to be 180 pounds and his mom is 120 pounds, how is she going to take care of that kid if he has an outburst, right? I think there's a legitimate concern that it's not necessarily a question of what might we lose, but also can we afford to allow suffering to exist if we have the power to stop it?
Yes.
I feel it should always be an option.
I think the distinction between high-functioning autism and low-functioning autism is really important, especially when you're considering quality of life. As people who, socialize to some degree, and I'm sorry if you don't feel like this applies to you, but as somebody who socializes quite regularly, it's super easy for me to forget that the impact, what the impact of being a social person has on my quality of life. Put frankly, a lot of people on the spectrum, even if they would be considered high functioning, they tend to put themselves in vulnerable positions when they're social. Just a lot of the times, it's you know, whether it's like a developmental age, you know, coexisting with people their age, and, you know, making decisions that are best for themselves as individuals. And then on the flip side of that is, you know, the natural, that introversion that comes with feeling you know, a strong degree of like apprehension towards you know, people around you, whether that's like your sensitivity to noise or you know, just you just really don't know how to make friends. So it's definitely something
Here
really
would be
common in the autistic community.
Here's what would be an extreme wild future. What if you could edit the forms of autism people have? Like, what if you could get rid of some of the downsides, like give them the ability to like socialize more easily, but they also
to be able to accurately answer this question, we need to be able to actually understand autism in a way that we don't actually understand it. And if in the case that we were able to edit it out without understanding it, I think that would be like a really bad thing. Like I would completely change my position in the case of Down syndrome or something. If we could do something that would make sure nobody would get Down syndrome, there's no upsides. But I think autism, there is a risk that we're actually like removing like something that's critical to humanity. If we were to just, I think that would be a big, like a broad strokes movement that would really change humanity in a big way. My theory is, but I don't know that.
Yeah. Perhaps like gene editing could be seen as a spectrum just as much as like autism could be seen as that spectrum, right? Like if you're going to edit the spectrum of autism, maybe you should view the gene editing as a spectrum itself. Like there are obviously more severe cases of autism on that spectrum. So within this gene editing spectrum, maybe those are the things you take out. Like my buddy, like my old coworker, he has a son with severe, like he's very low functioning autism. He can't walk through a parking lot unless he stops and reads every single license plate, so they just don't take him out. So obviously you would want to edit that out, but maybe somebody that only has like a little bit of problems with like their extrasensory issues, you know, maybe that might not be so bad. And in some cases it might actually be beneficial, kind of like what Smith was saying. Like, you know, there are some benefits to autism. Like maybe if you could like, I don't know, maybe dull or just like kind of like whittle those down into more beneficial aspects rather than disorders. Maybe like, I don't know, maybe that would help.
Well, do we have a right to say that?
If I can go full Black Mirror for a second, imagine a world we can choose what autism kids have. Imagine, could there be parents that are willing to give kids a certain type of autism to gain monetarily from it?
Yeah, like Mozart's dad.
That's true. If we had that technology today, this is crazy. If we had that technology today, mark my words, there would be markets of parents that are just giving their kids severe disorders to put them all over TikTok, to put them all over the internet, to gain money, to get like whatever.
Right? Like that woman that kept her daughter sick. Remember that shit?
You would need certain protections to prevent like parents giving their kids, you know, severe
disorders,
right? The question is legally, where do we draw the line? I think legally you don't want to stop a parent from preventing a child from getting autism, or right. You don't want to make that a rule that, hey, if your kid is going to have some type of disorder, you're not allowed to intervene, right? You have to let that happen. That doesn't seem right.
So
if we have a society where we can
autism, I think it's really important that we make the distinction that, you know, people with autism usually have the deficiency or the hypersensitivity in like 3 or more of their 5 senses. So what you're really talking about is like either you're removing that deficiency or you're just like buffing all 5. The spectrum is kind of like a combination of like, you know, a hypersensitivity to like a particular, you know, through a particular sense, but because, you know, we are talking about deficiencies and hypersensitivities, I think that, like you said, like catering them and tuning them, I see it as like maybe overcorrecting an issue.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing at the idea of an autistic person just standing in place and somebody pulls up and they buff all 5 of their senses and that person just starts yelling. That person just starts yelling, like it's terrifying.
Hit him with like a fucking urge spell or some D&D type shit?
Vampire.
Are we certain though that the kid who stares at license plates all day and plays with trains is living a bad life though?
Not consideration.
I think
I all the parts of autism in my son except for his hyperfixation on trains.
I like trains.
I think this is like where we kind of wade into like a dangerous territory, like where we start presupposing like maybe autism is like a good thing for people to have. It's like, no, like a lot of these people, yeah, sure, it's like we have a lot of our geniuses who have have these things, but
no,
like, I'm gonna finish. They have social problems at the same time. Like they have panic attacks. They aren't good in like, or they're terrible in other situations. Like there's like a varying. It's not like they're just all good.
Yeah, but I think that's the whole
we got
point of
Microsoft,
evolution working the way it does.
No.
I think like the reality is like it's part of why this gene editing stuff worries me. In a sense, evolution's whole purpose is just to like add variation, and whatever variation is like most successful, it just continues to move forward and like progress, right? That's like natural selection.
Yeah, most of
and
the
that's how
time,
evolution
yeah.
works along with it.
I believe in autistic uncle theory. That's what I believe in. I don't believe in gay uncle theory, but I do believe in autistic uncle theory.
And this one uncle's autistic.
Yeah, the gay uncle theory is that some people are gay because it's beneficial to have like a gay man in your tribe that's not mating because he can help take care of the kids, but like having a male do different roles and stuff. That is the theory. I don't believe in it, but I do believe in gay autist theory.
Damn, gay autist theory?
Wait.
What is that?
Question is, hold on. Why does it have to be gay as a necessity to take care of the children per se?
It's the theory. It's the theory. Because if he's gay, then he's not like mating, so he has more time for other things. That is the theory. I don't believe in it, but
even if an autistic person was happy with their life, though, can we
autistic theory or
even if an autistic person is happy with their life, though, like we can't really like, can we ignore the for lack of a better word here, burdens that they would put on other people in society? I mean, there are certain buy-ins to society, or like I think we can all agree with that. And if we can edit out those things, that would probably make it like a bit harder for everybody else. I mean, we can't just only focus on this one person.
But no. But if you make it so that we're editing people not for their own benefit, like removing diseases and stuff, but like editing them so that they become like less of a burden on society, like, oh, that's going to some dangerous territory there.
Well, I mean, maybe editing out diseases that would be burdens for everybody. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that you should. Well,
here's what I would ask you then. Would it be okay in that society to be like, if a woman is pregnant and we have the technology to tell, and like her son's going to be born with autism? Now, let's say it's not even like the most severe form. Let's say it's actually just like a more minor form of autism. He has some like hypersensitivity, but it's not like extreme. He can function in his day-to-day life with a little bit of help.
Yeah.
Would it be okay for the government to come in and be like, hey, that's still a burden on society. We're going to decide like, we're gonna gene edit your baby while it's
no. Well, by burden on society, I think I'm more or less calling back to what Alaguana was talking about. How like if a 180-pound like severe low functioning autistic person flips out, his 120-pound mom isn't going to do anything, or isn't going to be able to do anything. That's what I mean by like potential, maybe instead of burdens, maybe potential dangers to themselves or others. Like the kid that stops in the parking lot to read license plates is just standing there in traffic reading license plates, might get hit by a bus, who knows? Or like an autistic person might flip out. Maybe they're a little bit heavier than everybody and you can't stop them, or like you'll have to use extreme force to stop them. I think that, so instead of burden, maybe danger to either themselves or others is a reason to edit their genes, not only for their benefit, but for society's benefit.
Of mice and men.
Do you want to edit out like violence too, like the violent tendencies
people
might have?
No, I think that's not what I was talking about. I don't think that.
Yeah,
correlates.
this is clearly different. Like it's the difference between like something that's medical versus like
somebody that's just angry.
Yeah.
Wait, but if you could do that, why wouldn't you, right? If you want like a better social cohesion, wouldn't you also argue that like if we could edit out the violence in humans, we should probably try to edit that out?
There might be some
necessarily obligations, but legally we shouldn't put a barrier in the way of stopping parents. So my position is that parents should pretty much legally be allowed almost full autonomy over preventing any kind of over gene editing their children. And I'm somewhat extreme in my position. I think that's both, for aesthetically or for when you come to certain things, right?
That is a hot take.
It is a hot take, but when we get into it, I'll get into it. But so just quickly on the autism thing, I think one important consideration, one subject that was brought up was that what are we going to lose if, whether you're talking about, the idea of autism savants or anything like this, And I think this isn't necessarily the right question, or I think that's a rather cruel question, because I think it should be more about individual happiness. Here's why. If we could genetically eliminate chronic depression, the predetermining factors that increase the likelihood of someone eliminating chronic depression, I think we should. And I think most people would probably agree we should. The problem is that if Van Gogh were never depressed, would he have ever painted, right? I don't know. But he would have been happier. And that's a sacrifice I'm willing to take.
Right. So this is the thing. So I think with physical traits, it goes way clearer into this route. But then now, the way you're saying it with psychological, behavioral things, it gets right down there too. If we're doing these things just based on like arbitrary things, like we want people like you could make it so someone has a perfect clean brain so that they're always perfectly happy. They're like having a child that's like the perfect child because they're like Winnie the Pooh. They're like, bumbling and happy, and they're gonna be fine in life. They're just gonna be like, and I think that if we do that based on our arbitrary like whims and stuff, we're gonna lose so much of humanity, and like we're gonna do what we did to dogs to human beings with physical traits it's just arbitrary bullshit. I think that I'm completely for getting rid of like Down syndrome, like stuff like that, but just in autism, there's a risk that it is like it's a very general broad stroke that you're getting rid of like a big chunk of something in us that's a risk that I need to understand before I'd be willing to do that. Of course, if it wasn't that way, I would be okay with getting rid of it. Any other disabilities like cleft palates, get rid of that kind of stuff. I'm not for make it so that your kid doesn't get your chin because you don't want it. No, none of that.
I totally agree.
You said dogs. I don't even see it as dogs. I think people are just going to become the iPhone, right? It's going to become this thing where everybody's idea of like a human, it's going to be a very preset. It's going to be the flat screen, like touch screen, flat back, 2 camera, whatever the fuck, right? It's going to become this very copy paste of every human. I think that's boring. I think that's just going to be like. Also, it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird to think that like parents should have that control over their kids. It's one thing to be like, my kid is going to be unhealthy. But it's another thing to be like, I am now going to design my kid like a character, because like the reality is
that's a bit
different
odd. It's like like a Skyrim creation. Like, who are you?
Yeah, like
if you want all the fucking races.
Like,
I would say even when people do that with their dogs, it's kind of weird. Like,
if you want to do that, you're already a bad parent. That's already like, if that is your attitude, you already are a bad parent.
That's why I think maybe like a better standard to come at this with is just like similar like how we view like a medically necessary surgery versus like a cosmetic surgery today. Like there's a pretty distinct difference. It's like one's going to save your life or like improve your quality of life significantly.
Well,
and like I think maybe that's similarly like how we should view these treatments. So it's
well,
like
in the context of like a surgery, that's yourself though. That's like your personal decision to get cosmetic surgery, and it's only affecting you. I don't know if that's exactly analogous to gene like editing on your child.
Well, if you start talking about something like skin color,
Are we talking about like baby designers and everything of that sort? I think the topic kind of switched a bit.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah, we're talking about baby designers.
All right, I'm talking about like for enhancements and everything of that sort. That's kind of like discriminatory because first and foremost, I think these like genetical editing things, they're only like access to people that are wealthy, right? So if anything, like it's more into like rich people and everything of that sort.
Well, that's how all technologies start out.
It has the potential to be more equitable though than current technology.
So the only way it becomes more accessible is if if you just have it in general. Like if you get rid of it completely because it's like, well, rich people are gonna have this.
I mean, the general trend is like
the conversation.
Everyone and everything.
That's also a different
thing. How do you make it
thing.
access to everyone?
When you come to
here's the general trend, right? It'll be
not everybody will have access to it, and that's fine.
No, I think eventually I think eventually it'll be an era where like everyone has pretty much access to it. But like I think the trend's going to be rich people invest in it a lot right now. They're going to be the first to really have access to it because they put a lot into it, and it's going to be really expensive because it's like really rare to get. And then eventually the government might get involved and be like, oh, we're going to start doing this for some diseases. We might be providing like this readily. And then over time, it just becomes cheaper and cheaper. Technology becomes better. And then, who knows where you are in the future.
Insurance plan, you know what I mean?
I'm against that.
Just because rich people are doing it doesn't necessarily mean that they're like improving. Their children could be just being improved to like meet standards. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're like always going to be improved.
So consider
it's like and also it's the same thing with genetics. Like we're all variable. Some people
consider like disorders that are associated with poverty. I think it's pretty naive to say that like people who are, you know, have more access to to this gene editing, like that it would be like an equivalent, or sorry, that they would use it in a way that wasn't, you know, purely preferential. But the point that I'm trying to make is that because there's already like a pretty distinct barrier to to getting this to like people with poverty, all you're really doing is increasing the gap between like the two caste systems or whatever. I think that would be very prevalent. Well, even okay, so like even if there was like a 10-year period where like at first each treatment is like $10,000, but by the end of that 10-year period, it's like $200 or $300, right? So like affordable to the average person. What I'm trying to say is that amount of time between those like 2 points is enough to like still create like quite like a ripple effect.
Yeah,
but I like
that's the nature of technology, and like that's the nature of
like would you say the same thing about like advancements in just coaching techniques, where it's like rich people had better coaches and then they probably created like gaps in between their skills between rich and poor?
Is that analogous?
It's not just sports though. It's
Kind
like
of.
every aspect.
I know.
It's just natural. You can't really avoid that. It's just
Or we could say as technology develops in coaching, like or in fucking working out, or in any of these things, in nutrition, like rich people are probably going to have more access to that than any poor person will.
I mean, let's be honest.
like
If genetics explodes like that kind of thing, like wouldn't it? Like if genetics got to the point to where you could edit things like that, and this was like a medical advancement for one, even under the scenario that like maybe only it starts out with only rich people having access to it for the purposes of what the discussion like started about, which was like editing out like severe or just like autism in general, like one less low functioning autistic person who might like be not having the best life is still like a good thing, I would say. And like, let's be honest, if it did like get funded, it's like they're not going to want to just stop at rich people. They're going to want all the money that they want, right? It's probably going to start becoming a part of insurance plans.
Yeah, and disability and chronic illness is going to impact poor families and disadvantaged families much more. So when you're talking about genetic engineering as a way to prevent chronic illness and these types of things, I think that is something that can help poor people much more than rich people, right? If you look at right now, what type of families can provide the proper resources towards special needs children? A poor family is highly, highly disadvantaged, and that child ends up oftentimes being a subject of being taken advantage of by people because of those protections that a privileged family can provide for their child, a less privileged family cannot provide for them. And so I think it has a potential to perhaps in a way even lessen the cycle of poverty, and that if a family that is already struggling has a child with special needs, they have to work so much harder than a family that is of higher means.
And then
that is true. That is
qualify for like things that are given out by the government to like people who have kids with autistic families. I'm Canadian, so we, if your child meets, the autistic criteria, you are afforded some subsidy or some amount of money that is given to your family. But to qualify for that, you need to have your kid assessed, and they go through something called like an ICANN assessment, and that assessment alone is like $2,000 with like a 2-year waiting period. And we're talking about kids who are exhibiting very like antisocial behaviors coming in through like middle school ages, heading into high school. So those 2-year period is critical. So yeah, just to further build on, I'm sorry, Aliguana, the idea that you had presented. Sorry.
What are we talking about right now? We're talking about multiple different things, and so we got to pick one, because we're either going to talk about the inequality or and how it would be like distributed, or are we going to talk about like the specific like things about genetic implementation?
I don't even care about the inequality that much. Like it sucks, but like the reality is that's a societal fix that needs other work. When it comes to shit, I don't like how like. Because I don't like this idea of just, we're just gonna design everyone. That shit's boring. That part of life is that variation. Part of life is the fact that all of us are a little bit different in these weird ways. Like the reality of this, I think what it's gonna come down to is it's gonna be a world where everyone has like the same nose or the same lips or the same like hairstyle. Like no one's gonna really be balding. There's going to be people who are having the same fucking like
you know what
shoe size or trying to maximize their height. It's going to be so boring.
Thing that with like plastic surgery, like it's kind of fucked. We're gonna have like
it's kind of like the episode of Fairly Odd Parents where everybody was gray blobs.
I don't see it as boring. I see it like as doing those things. It removes like we're taking pieces out of humanity because we hate ourselves and we think we should be better. But I think that is fundamentally like we're every time we do that, it's a loss. If our loss is disabilities, then that's good. If our loss is anything that's not a disability, it's bad. I think access to this stuff should the things that we allow ourselves to do should be democratically like controlled, and it should be like across the board. It shouldn't be just like a rich people thing. Then we're just making it so that rich people don't have like that. That's no. It can. I don't think, even though that's capitalism, baby, that's the world we live in. That's dangerous waters. But
yeah, but like if it's just the rich people having it will eventually at least trickle down into like maybe not the lowest slums of poverty, but it's probably going to trickle down into like the middle class, lower middle class. Like I said, like if they're making money off of it, they're not going to stop with the richest of the rich. They're going to want to.
Same thing with cars. People said the same thing about cars. Like, they were like, cars are going to destroy society, and then everyone has a car now.
Like people at their everyday factory jobs is probably going to become a part
of. This isn't a tool. This
cars
isn't like a car is like a tool, and yeah, cars have in some ways destroyed parts of society, right? Wait, actually, you can look at how cars developed, and you can look at parts of society and see like social cohesion is lower because there's areas where it's just people, because they're in cars, they're isolated most of the time. They keep moving around separately, and yeah, you see these situations get fucked. We have to account for those.
Well, no,
yeah, that's actually editing is a tool, though, and right now we're deciding how we're talking about how best to use it. Right, it is a tool.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about, so for example, I think some of us do agree that, for example, what the question is, what exactly is worth changing, right? And you say disability, right, or something, or things that are negatively affect people. The question, though, is that when you look at certain, say, like a congenital ear deformity, right? You would say, well, hey, parents should be able to go and have that baby. They go and have a minor surgery to get that fixed, so later in life they aren't bullied for it, right? I think most of us could agree that's probably fine, right? What if just happens that that baby is going to be, there's no necessary deformity, but they happen to be born with all of the features we consider extremely ugly, right?
No.
Is that
would you edit out like obesity?
We could edit out factors genetic factors that increase the risk of obesity or heart diseases, right?
Ugly. Like so. What we're doing at that point is we are literally changing our DNA because we hate ourselves. Like that's literally what it is.
Here's my issue. I think this is just an advanced form of the plastic surgery argument. It's one thing if somebody has like a messed up like nasal canal and they need to get surgery to like get that fixed, right?
Yeah.
But if your issue is like, I just don't like the way my nose looks, that's something you have to work on outside of maybe just going to get surgery. That's something you should probably like do some like internal review. That's something you should probably like work around with the people around you.
No, because think about this, right?
That's a personal thing. That's you taking it upon yourself to fix your own personal looks. But as far as like the gene editing thing goes, this is another whole being that is not you. So I don't think that's analogous, because when it comes to surgery, it's like, this is my body. I have the money. I'm going to pay for the surgery, so I'm going to do it. But with the gene editing, it's like, this is a whole other person's body. This is another other person's genes. And whenever I said like edit out obesity, I meant like the predisposition to be obese, because you can find predispositions in the genes for that.
My kid better not be a fatty. My kid better not have a big nose, or else if my kid has a big nose, it's going to be flat by the time I'm through with him.
I have a big nose.
Nowadays, though, we're already choosing kids, but like, are we not already choosing the gender of our kids? Like, I'm pretty sure that's a thing.
Are we really?
No, it's not true. Some of us disagree with you on that. Some of us do. Varying opinions.
So I don't
fine. Like see that, like
okay, but like the reason I brought it up, is because like, could we agree that like per gender, like there are different risks associated with each gender? If somebody felt like they were not like raise a woman or to raise a young boy or whatever, would that, like with those considerations in mind, like would we be creating an imbalance? And like I don't even know if we can handle choosing genders yet, but like I just wanted to.
If somebody wasn't, if somebody like if it was like a single mom and she was like, I have more experience with women personally, so like I feel more capable of raising like a girl. That's one thing, or like a parent that said we're both
That's
parents
so
that say
weird. Why?
No, I think that's not weird. I think that makes more sense. But then my question would be like, would it be acceptable for somebody to be like, I can't raise an ugly kid?
Well,
what if somebody just said like, yeah, that kid's fucked up, like I cannot do
That's
this, like I
bad
need
for
my kid
us.
to be good looking.
That's bad for us. It's
So,
bad for us.
I have a question for you, Vibes. So
Yeah, what's
if
up?
you could, what is should a parent be able to? So the example I gave before, if a kid has a congenital ear deformity, should a parent be able to send that kid in to have that surgery to fix that ear?
Yes.
Okay. Where does facial deformity start and ugly begin? And
Where does facial
yeah,
facial deformities like cleft palates, like default, like obvious deformalities? Like if my kid looks like fucking Elephant Man, I'm probably gonna check that
What about a
fucker.
weak chin?
If my kid looks like Leafy, I'm sorry, aborted. But as far as things like ugly, like I'm probably not gonna try to like have and I don't know if this is like a thing that's actually like real right now, but we're on the topic of like possible gene editing, so I think it's okay to bring it up. Like hypothetically, if I could like have surgery so my kid never gets acne, I think that's just like a bit whack. But if it's gonna be, I think if I can prove, if you can see or observe that it will cause sufficient harm or significant harm to them physically or socially in like cleft palates or deformities in their bones, then yes, it's okay.
Right, I don't know if socially is a
I
good
was
one, because you could
thinking
also say
more-
like, what if both parents are extremely ugly and they know their kid's probably going to be ugly and they want to maximize their kids' looks because they know socially their kid's going to be ostracized.
Both of them fucking had. Both of them managed to have kids.
Syndrome would be like a really good one to start with because you already know like this.
Holy shit.
Sorry,
I'm
you're
sorry.
cutting in and out.
Wait,
Yeah, you're cutting it out.
When your mic conflicts with somebody else, it like cuts in and out. Sorry, I didn't know if you knew that.
My bad. Is it better now?
Okay, it's your noise gate, I think. What I was just saying though is like fetal alcohol syndrome is like predictable. The baby's been exposed to alcohol throughout the pregnancy. That should be like, at least we know like it's like a slam dunk use as far as I'm concerned. I think that would be a good place to start.
I think this is an excellent example, Neve. And so one reason is because we could look at federally. So this is grossly affecting your child, right? Prenatal child, right? And that what stops a woman from drinking during pregnancy? Well, federally, there's no law that stops it, right? It's or you. And so federally, there's no law that prevents it, right? Some states have certain regulations, but federally, there's no law. So basically, we're saying you have full autonomy to completely kind of give your kid almost a disability, right? And we're not going to punish you, at least federally, right? And so I think that what the precedent that we're setting is that parents have almost full autonomy over their child prenatally and a large degree of autonomy, even when it comes to aesthetic and medically not necessary procedures, neonatal and infant as an infant, right? And so another example, say, would be circumcision, right? Parents are allowed to
Ban
say,
it.
I want his to look like mine, so just snip it. But even if there's not for a medical reason, some people do have medical.
I'm
reasons.
anti-circumcision.
Yeah, the same
personally.
here. But that's all I'm
dude?
saying is that we, as a society, have accepted that amount of autonomy parents already have, and I think the question of where does that end is a very open.
It ends by getting rid of it altogether.
I got a question. I got a question. For Alaguana, I'm saying for like even have that.
He just asked a question. You can't just like no. You're not gonna let people answer his question. You fucking asshole.
Well, no, he made a good point.
I have a question.
Just answer.
So I didn't get to speak, but okay, whatever. I'm saying like for that mother to drink and all that shit, right? Like I'm just saying for the most part, that baby has a chance to have like a sort of defect that mother drinks, but having that technology, will it enable more for that mother to drink or whatnot? Like will it enable like bad behavior for most people, given that we have this technology and everything of that sort? Like, does that make sense? Like this is the question.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's
it
a
does
very
make sense.
interesting
I know what you're
question
saying.
as to whether, if, for example, we know these behaviors are bad because they lead to bad outcomes. But what if they didn't lead to bad outcomes? If you could just, if gene editing can change it, I'm skeptical of that because there's a different because a lot of gene editing will happen before birth, right, or as a zygote, right. So that's when the sperm implants in the egg. This is why in IVF or in vitro fertilization, all of the editing or all of the choice rather between do you want a boy or a girl or whatever, it's as the zygote, right. It's and that's when that is implanted. And so when you're talking about a fetus, right? So you're looking after first, second, third trimester here. Should a woman be able to drink if we can genetically edit all of the consequences out? That seems a lot more difficult because the changes happening aren't just to a single cell or a few cells. This is to a already grown, developed organism, right? And so that would be a lot more scientifically a lot more difficult. So I'm still I would still be on the case that I don't think that is likely, but maybe in a way off sci-fi future that could be possible.
Okay, I got a scenario for you. So what if you know that with the technology we have, that you have some options, and you know that your kid's going to be very ugly, but they're not deformed, and there's nothing you can do about it with what we have available. But what you can do is you can make it so that they can get punched in the face and it be like perfectly fine. They'll be like able to bounce back. So you give them a gene
like
so that
Squidward.
people can punch them in the face and it's no problem for them. Would you do that? Is that ethical to let people do?
If I don't know if I understand.
If I could
give them a gene. You give them a gene so that their face is punch proof. Like being punched in the face does like 1/10 of the damage that it. Yeah.
1 HP.
Yeah, instead of inviting your kid to get punched over and over, and people.
I think that's the issue. You can't really you can't give a punch 1 HP damage. It's gonna do more.
You'd be like, hey, here's this.
Okay. Oh, I get it. Okay, so like you could like X-Men give this person steel skin, like
basically, it's just a thought experiment.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if the reason punching is bad is because it causes harm to someone, right? But I think it would also have to be consensual, right? So I would think that the person would still have to consent to being punched, even if it doesn't hurt them.
Hey, can I punch you in the face?
Well, I'm just saying, like, as a solution, so making it so that we can punch. What I'm saying is we change because we can't fix ugly people. We just make it so that we can punch them and it'll be fine. And then everybody's happy. Ugly people can get punched in the face and then it won't hurt them. Like that's the kind of like I feel like that's the path. We're our arbitrary like bullshit of self-hatred and things that we want to change about ourselves because we just accept this as ugly. We don't we need to be like this way, and it's just totally arbitrary. That is like for us to like take that away is a
all right. Do humans have two legs or one leg? And if you know a human's gonna be born with one leg, should you let it be born with the one leg?
No, I think
no. Okay. Wouldn't you say that ugly?
You're killing the one leg community.
Fuck the one leg.
True. That is.
Ugly and attractive are both subjective, and I think that if you say arbitrary, you have to include the fact that we probably all wouldn't agree what ugly is. I guess I don't know.
Okay, so what if they were treated like vaccines, like something that we've deemed kids have to get go to school for the protection of everybody, society. Like, what if it was something like that?
Guys, what if it's like they get a lot better looking?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I got punched in the face a few times.
You know what, let's go for it. If this is the
Wait, I got a question.
The face turns me to that, then I like y'all all can hit me. Holy shit, dude, that's sexy.
Wait, I got a question for like this might be triggering and might be some trolling shit, but with this like, genetic editing shit, what if we had the ability to take away gayness from people?
Squidward.
Genetic.
No.
Take away the gay people. I don't know.
I think that is one of the later questions. I'm pretty confident.
Like,
I think
right?
That's trans was one of the later things.
Yeah, but I think the point he's making is like there is a genetic connection to games.
Like, I think what we're struggling with here is like, even if that was the case, I don't think you should. But I think you're just going to see a lot of people do it for like a multitude of reasons, right? You're going to see parents justifying it by being like, listen, I might not care about it, right? But I know that if my kid is like gay, trans, whatever, they might like, depending on where they live, their answer might be like, they're going to go out into society, they're going to get fucked, people are going to like mess with them, ostracize them, they might even try to kill them depending on where they are, right?
The Bible says that gays are sinners.
Again, I think this just goes back to this mentality of like, it's really easy to just get rid of the thing that makes you different, but like, is that the thing we should do? Should we just take the easy option, or should we put some effort into like actually working on ourselves and trying to like accept our differences and move from that point?
Aren't we all in agreement that diversity among humans is like pretty good actually?
Yeah, I agree with
so I
that.
have a-
What Smith was
Yeah,
saying.
but I think like if you
This is a different type of diversity.
the gene
This
editing
is-
stuff makes it more questionable on like are we going to still have the same diversity?
Still have diversity and like weed out the bad diversities. Like you don't you always want there.
Wait,
to,
but that's
like,
the question.
put-
Are we weeding out the bad or are we weeding out the inconvenient? Because the question there for like,
Wait,
are we
wait,
weeding
wait.
out gay
Not
people?
bad.
Are we weeding out the gay
Well,
gene
gay
because it would be
people is
bad,
different.
or would we? Well, no. Even then, would we be weeding out because it's bad, or would we be weeding it out because groups of people in different areas would be like,
with the gay
this
thing.
is just
they-
inconvenient. This is a problematic. This is whatever.
gay. I don't think you should.
most people would agree
Suppose.
that, like, from a priority perspective, I think that it would make more sense to go for something like antisocial personality disorder, like psychopathy, because obviously that's like just so many negative outcomes.
Yeah.
So yeah, it almost seems kind of weird to talk about like the gauging. I know it's still valid, but I'm just saying.
If you can show demonstrably that the thing that you will be editing out will be beneficial to the person and to the people around it, and I think that there are ways that you can demonstrate that, then it should be edited out, such as very low functioning autism, because those people probably aren't living the best lives, and the people that have to take care of them probably aren't living the best lives either. But something like gayness, no, because it doesn't harm society, and there's no demonstrable evidence for
It
that.
could. If
Well, you don't
everybody
think
was
it harms
gay, we would
society.
all
Some
die.
people think it does.
Yeah, there's certainly
Well,
people who
theoretically,
think
like as a
insanity.
fact, theoretically as a fact, there's nothing wrong with gay
doesn't-
people. But if everybody was gay, all of humanity would die. Like, so it isn't ideal.
Yeah, but not.
There is
gonna-
a reality there.
Like,
Yeah, even in this scenario, not everybody's going to be made gay.
My hair
Like-
is so fucked.
I know. I'm just
Well, I
saying that
mean,
it isn't.
like the trend that everyone.
I would like to go back to the Spartan society personally.
Like, it depends on when. Yeah, it depends on what trends you're looking at.
That's
According
pretty
to some
gay.
trends,
That's
it
pretty
could
gay.
happen.
That is pretty gay. Those Greeks, they like the getting the love from the homeboys, man. You know what I'm saying?
Vibes. The Greek people were having sex with men and children. That was fucked up. I don't want to go back. to
Yeah,
that.
let's go back to 1776.
The children part was
George
crazy.
Washington.
But the children part was crazy. But you're telling me you're willing to risk your life with the soldier next to you, but you're not willing to take a dick in the ass?
I mean, yo, listen. I mean, if
You brought it to a weird spot. We obviously weren't talking about the Greeks in that way.
Plato's digging, yes, an interesting ethical qualm, really.
Yeah.
If you could just
Like, a lot of
medically
these-
edit out that.
I've heard some Greeks contest this information also. There's contesting history on this with some people.
I'm Greek, and pederasty was absolutely a thing. And I mean,
How do you know?
I've
Yeah,
heard
that's
all
what
about it.
years ago though. That
It's probably documented. I haven't read into the that kind of stuff into that happened. In
Yeah,
the
no,
Greek
I had a buddy from
I read Berserk, and if medieval Europe is anything like Berserk, bro, pederasty was crazy back then.
I had like a buddy from
Have a-
Greece, and he was telling me, he was like, nah, bro, that's Western lies. He was like, they're just trying to make us look bad. I was like, what?
Okay,
Oh my god.
these
I was like,
these,
no.
the personality defects, like being like a psychopath or whatever, or being gay. Like, I think these types of things, the way I think things are, is more like a proclivity could exist theoretically, but we can't even prove that. And if we could
No, we
find
can.
like, oh, this set of genes gives you a proclivity, that means that you're more likely to be a
Is-
psychopath. Then if we
Yeah,
take
so we
that
know-
out, taking away a proclivity is not the same as removing a genetic defect, and it will have
So we know the
like
issue, though?
massive alternative consequences that we aren't
Yeah.
aware of.
So people with ASPD
psychology is
though
not a
have
hard
like
science.
undeveloped like frontal lobes. So it would make sense to think like that would be more addressable than like maybe the
Yeah,
gauging.
you can't really
argument.
you can't
No,
really
like,
like
hold
check
on,
if
hold
the
on.
lobe
I also
is
feel like-
undeveloped.
I also feel like if you're editing somebody's genetics, you're kind of creating a new person. At that point, like we might as well just look for stuff we don't like in babies. Just look for diseases, disorders, and just like abort them and then move on from there.
Gene
No,
editing-
but at least
Yeah,
we,
it's
at least we
changing
can
as I
say
go.
like we can say quite confidently though, like an underdeveloped like frontal lobe or like your inability to process emotions, like these are things that lead to really like erratic behavior sometimes being violent.
yes, but we don't
So,
know
like,
what causes that.
Okay,
don't
hold
know
on,
we
the-
actually-
the-
we actually do.
we know the yeah, we have a lot of correlation, like a lot of information around actually with brain.
causation.
I can't say the other word, the correlatory. I don't know if that's the word. But yeah, no, there's a lot that we do know because of
If you're
stuff.
gene-
Those are like profiles.
Yeah, but I
Not
think Smeth's
necessarily,
point
like,
is I think
concrete
Smeth's
things.
point is that we don't have any real grasp of like what is causing autism in people, right? Like
Yeah, that's. But
his idea would be like if there was like a genetic code that causes autism and you could alter that code and get rid of those hypersensitivities and get rid of some of those negatives, what if there's what if there's other things that have been like boosted because of that like code variation.
So I think 2 points really quick. So FK, in regard to the idea that, if you change someone's genes, you change the person they are. If you're altering the genes in a zygote, right, that's not a person yet. At least it depends perhaps on your
exactly
and all this. But a person, right, we can debate as to whether at what stage of development a person is, but I think we can generally agree that the second a sperm and an egg cell, unless maybe you think life begins at conception, and but that's not a person yet. You're altering the factors that will eventually be the person who they are, right? And I think also the second point, I take issue with the idea that if gene editing is very common in society, that we're going to eliminate diversity, right? I think there's certain ways we'll reduce it, especially if you are eliminating adverse conditions. But in the end, generally, if you were to give parents a choice of like, hey, do you want your child to look like Leonardo DiCaprio, or do you want them to look like you? Most parents will generally say, I would like my child to look somewhat like me, right? And I think that's also one contention where I have with the idea of that.
What a dash, Leo.
That's actually a good point.
Because most parents generally, right, and in fact you can see this when parents get upset if it doesn't look totally like them, which is a different point entirely. But in general, we'll continue with a lot of the diversity that currently exists because parents want their kid to look like them.
I think you would hope for that, but I think there's too many societal incentives that seem to push us in the opposite direction every other time, right?
I also
when it comes to
counting how many different DNA
don't let society dictate how your child should look like. That's kind of fucked up.
Well, you say that, but
that's
like
the thing. That's the
people
thing.
do that.
Because the things that we think are pretty, the things that we think are attractive, the things that we think are good qualities, those are from society. We get those from society.
I was about to say everything that you like is kind of just based around how society wanted it to be. It's like parents dress their kids up to look good, like as according to how like society thinks it is going to look good.
I think the biggest example is we can look at child beauty pageants, and they literally have criteria for what is like objectively good within these kids that they like score for, right?
But even a more there's societal pressure on parents to get like circumcisions for boys, right? Because of the cleanliness factor and like the practical efficiency thing or whatever.
Cleanliness is a fake factor. So like, what do you mean? You don't take a shower every day?
What, easier to suck?
No,
yeah,
I'm not
here's
saying
the thing,
it's
actually.
impossible.
There is societal, society is shifting
Jack, what I'm saying is that this is already the same thing. This is like an example of what somebody else
I think it's negative.
Yeah, but
whatever.
At least in America,
you put your kids in a pageant. We need to edit that the fuck out.
Yeah, we need to like.
There is sections of America that are starting to look at male circumcision similar to like female circumcision, like how like we used to look
it is
at
genital
that.
mutilation, absolutely.
Yeah, and so
even the way you worded it right there,
trends are changing there.
Yeah, I think one thing to consider also is that the types of parents that put their kids in beauty pageants, absolutely, you would be concerned about, to what extent do they go? But most parents don't put their kids in beauty pageants, and most
I actually defend beauty pageants. But
What?
What I'm saying is that the idea that
will you ban
you want to make
sports?
your kid the exact type of fit them into the mold that is whatever the standard is. I don't think most parents are like that. And I think when you talk to most parents, they generally want a few things for the kids. Number one, they want them to be happy. Number two, they want them to be successful in whatever they do. And number three is they want them to be a little bit like them, right? And I think most of those factors are not going to be a net harm for society if you give parents a little bit more autonomy in exactly what kind of genetic factors are in their child. Because an important thing to consider is most of modern behavioral science, the idea of innate talent and these innate factors be determining are not necessarily correct. More and more science, behavioral science indicates how important environment is and how much diversity you can get, even with, say, like twin studies, right? Just by altered environments, right? And I think you will still see, and lastly, when you're talking about just editing a few things that are, let's say, editing out diseases or severe conditions, or even phenotypical traits, right? Your how do you look or whatever. These are very, very tiny portion of genetics, right? When you look at it, because our genome is exceedingly long.
But I think this
like
is what most people are
something
gonna.
like
I think
that.
this is what most normal people are gonna care about, right?
But
I think
it's
most
not
normal
gonna
people are
limit
gonna care.
genetic diversity that much is all I'm saying.
You can't really know.
Here's my issue though. It's one thing if somebody lived a life where they looked at their, like, they literally were selecting mates based on, like, I want to select for top tier genetics within my mate, whatever, right? That's a completely different lifestyle that person prescribes or lives by. But it feels weird to give regular people the capability of going like looking at their
having a
kid
LeBron.
and being like,
They just get a
I got
LeBron.
these things, but I'm gonna max my kid, right? Like,
Min-maxing
yeah,
kids.
I look okay, but like now I'm gonna start shifting my kids like facial, like even the phenotypical characteristics seems wild to me. That somebody's just gonna like alter what their kid kind of looks like for what? Like, what's the reason there outside of some like sense of vanity and some sense of just
There's already
wanting to
limitations
like.
with that though, because you can't name your kid whatever you want, right? So the state already imposes like some degree of, I don't know, like
Depends
it impacts the
you
autonomy of the parent to that degree. So I mean, I feel like that could be extended to like you can't make your kid born with like 5 arms or something.
Sometimes
like,
I feel like
stuff.
conservatives. Sometimes I feel like conservatives are a little bit better on the idea of like having a soul, where it's like, bro, you just got to let people do what they're doing. That's them. That's like their entity. And I feel like
I disagree.
It really sucks because a lot of parents nowadays, I feel like they're just not looking at their kids as separate entities. They just want their kid to be like a creation that they've had.
Right. I want to push back on
a junior
something.
version of them per se.
Something Alagana said I want to push back on is that, well, it's different from like people that want to be like, they want a hyper specific kid because they want to do the beauty pageant thing, but we're just talking about, I want my kid to have a certain kind of nose that I have or whatever. I think that if you have that attitude, you already are going in the direction of the beauty pageant kid. Wanting your kid to look a specific way is the opposite of being a good parent, and you already are.
That's not true.
Yes, it is true.
Okay, play a little bit of devil's. I'm gonna play a little bit of devil's advocate. I'm gonna play a little bit of devil's advocate here. Like, hold on. Wait. Okay, so I'll play a little bit of devil's advocate here. Is there any is it like demonstrable that doing something like that, like editing your kid's nose or their ears or their eyes or something like that, will like is that harmful? Is that going to have negative side effects? And if so, why? Like, I don't know if I necessarily agree completely with Alaguana here about like being able to edit certain like for aesthetics. I don't know if I necessarily agree, but I can't think of a reason. I can't think of a way to demonstrate why it would be negative. So if anybody has that, I'd love to hear it, but I can't think of one.
Well, we probably don't.
To me, it feels like the same way.
As a child, like if I'm having a son, he better be black and have my nose and my lips and my ears and my eyebrows and everything of that. So you just look.
And that's great. That's great. That's the cool thing about gene editing. If you want it, you can do that.
Well, I think FK made a good point earlier. Actually, FK was talking about how we want, like, isn't it better just like to have like this idea in society where like, hey, look, maybe we should place less emphasis on like these minor, diversity changes, like your nose is too big, your nose is too small, whatever, and like stop judging people on that basis as much, and like move away from that rather than like try to edit out all of these different normal variations in humanity.
The problem here's another way to look at it. Here's another way to look at it. When a kid is fat, when a kid is really fat, right? You would want the parents to make their kids skinnier, right? But you don't want the parent to go up to their kid and tell them, I want you to be skinnier. I want you to be skinnier. You want them to go up and give them advice, not to make them skinnier, but for their health, right? You want them to give them advice that makes them a healthier person. And then later on, they have better feelings towards health rather than just having this feeling of like, oh, I was fat, now I am skinny, right? It's the same thing with this gene editing shit. You don't want people to just like want these characteristics because they're different. When somebody gets a different characteristic, it should be because it like makes their life better in a way that's not just like, oh, I feel better because my nose is different. It should be like, I feel better because now I'm healthier. Now I'm like able to do more stuff without being tired. Now I'm able to like I can breathe better. I can sleep better. All of these other things that are like overall positives for someone's life.
It's the same as the plastic surgery, because the problem, if you have like a nose that you don't like, then the problem isn't your nose, it's your insecurity, and the problem is society that's telling you that that's an ugly nose. If there's nothing wrong with your nose, so if we solve the problem by changing people's noses rather than looking within ourselves and changing ourselves in society, then we are doing that is a harm that we're doing to society by putting that burden on ourselves and on individuals like, as if there's something wrong with us. That insecurity is not justified.
So I think it would
not
be great
to mention,
like
if you go the easy way out, like the person's not going to develop like any ways to comprehend like adversity and everything of that sort. So the easy way is kind of like detrimental in some ways, where it's like, I think it makes the person weaker in some way.
I think they'll still encounter pretty
adversity. Eliminate adversity, right? Because adversity happens throughout the normal life, right? And I also think
it's going to happen.
Caught up in the edge cases, right? Where like, oh my gosh, their nose isn't exactly how I want it. What I think in general, right, If you could say, hey, right now it looks like your son is going to be 5'2", well, good luck with his dating prospects, right? Now, of course, that doesn't mean that he's probably
protecting himself.
Easily be a great guy, right, and have all these things. But the question is, sure, right, these struggles make people strong. Struggles in general, people can grow through them, but they don't always, right? And not all struggles have a net gain, right? If you're born with a chronic illness, you could say, hey, I am stronger because of this, and I have more perseverance because of it. But if in the first place you hadn't had it, would you still be a persevering person? I think that's a question open for debate.
Really, no.
Yeah, so
I think that there's nothing wrong with being 5'1". There's nothing there's plenty of women that are 5'1". Should they? Is there something wrong with them?
Okay,
No.
the reason that women are 5'1" though is because they're naturally shorter.
I'm just going to talk. So there are a lot of commonalities between successful people and people who overcome like really severe mental illnesses. A lot of those are like positive habits and, addressing learning from your past mistakes or whatever. And like where I'm headed with this is like, if we standardize brain function, I think that would really leave, good habits, followed by, nature versus nurture is obviously going to be a really big factor. But if we could look to like standardize like brain function at the very least, because I think autism spectrum disorder, I think you have to have like 60 or below on like an IQ score to be considered ASD or something. But on top of that, like a lot of the personality disorders are also tied to brain function, and like other things as well. So I don't know, kind of random, but I think
can I stream like a 15-second clip in here for everyone?
Shoot.
Can you? I don't know.
Do it. Yes.
Is that one of the
Do
rules?
it.
Is there music in it?
I had a question.
No, it's just something
No
that needs to be heard.
inspirational
I think
music?
by everyone. Let me know when everyone's in.
I like the inspirational
damn.
background music.
Okay, hold on.
Bro, it better not be your advertisement.
15-second clip. Sorry.
Where
I need
is it? Are
background
you
with
streaming?
Are you trolling?
No, it's just a 15-second clip.
Just do it with your
Put it
virtual
on.
camera.
15 seconds.
Why?
Do it with your virtual camera.
Well,
Have
what are
you
you
pulled it
doing?
up? No, I
can do that.
Why? What? What do you mean?
There's only
Don't worry
that.
Cool
about it.
Shops, you advocate for this? Do you
Don't worry about
accept this bullshit?
It was it's a girl from a long time ago, and she said, "Some of y'all are about to be real mad at me, but it must be said, some of y'all are fat and ugly, and that is okay. Some of y'all look like shoes, and that is okay. You gotta accept that about yourself and work on what
And
you
that
can."
doesn't mean you're unhealthy. There's a difference between
Like-
being ugly. But being fat, you're probably
I
unhealthy.
mean,
but
being ugly is
being
subjective,
ugly is a
though.
little different. So it's like exactly. That's why ugly is like I think we should strive for a health standard. It's like, all right, like is this person gonna have Down syndrome? Okay, yeah, all right, let's edit that out. Okay, is this person maybe gonna be like 4'7" and he's a dude? All right, maybe like we don't want him to be 4'7". That's a cruel life. Like things like that. And I think when we start looking at it, like it would become like an insurance thing where it's like insurance doesn't cover your cosmetic surgery, but they will cover your medically necessary stuff.
I think.
Well, do we want to live in a
also-
world where there's no little people? Like, assuming that they have good health. Like, there's.
I mean, like, I really
That's a
Possibility to be tall.
charisma a little
I
bit.
think we should not try to build communities, and it sounds bad, but it's like these are disorders or disabilities. They're not like it's not something no one wants to go and be in the little person community. It's like these people are kind of forced into that, and I heard this argument with the deaf community too, and one was like, well, like it's all this culture that we're building up, and it's like yes, you've built this because you had to, because like you're struggling here without this, like without building a whole language for yourself, and you wouldn't have had to do that if you were able to hear, or maybe you like for a little person, it's like you little people, it's a little different because they actually have negative health aspects that like are associated with that. It's like dwarfism does have negative health effects.
I feel like no blind person wants to be blind and no deaf person wants to be deaf. Okay, like for the vast majority. Maybe you can find some fringe cases here, and I do believe that like Jack said, like being short does have some like medical like
At least like dwarfism, for example.
Yeah, dwarfism.
Maybe
Well, I
being
mean,
5'4" is like okay, yeah, it's not
I
a bad
mean,
thing,
like
but-
I don't necessarily see the problem with understanding that society selects for certain social things, and instead of trying to change, I'm not saying that you shouldn't try to push change in society, but I will say that there are clear disadvantages to being 5'4". I mean, like don't knock anybody who's 5'4", but there are disadvantages to it. I mean, like
There's a reason we've evolved from being average heights of like 5'4" to where we are today, where it's like 5'9" or like I think it's maybe like 5'10". I saw
Five-
some
it's like-
years
Can we get a
US.
recap on where everyone in here stands on this idea though of gene editing? Like, let's just say like,
only medically
are you
necessary.
okay? Only medically necessary for you?
That's where I'm at.
So
Yeah.
for me, medically necessary, because for everything else about being ugly, being too short, and all this bullshit, I mean, that's subjective to how you look at it. I think for the individual, they should work their way to like just making it where at disadvantage you used to be to their advantage to grow as a person, because now it's like, there's no easy way out with this shit, you know what I mean? I think there's always gonna be diversity, or like adversity, whatever you're gonna do some genetic editing or
Your
whatnot.
mic's
So
really quiet.
it's like, it's kind of bullshit. Like, you're just like,
There you go.
just like, yo, just work through the hard shit, and you can't work through the hard shit, the more weak you become, right? Like, you already see this with this iPhone bullshit, like, people are less sociable now, so, if anything, only for, like, medical purposes. We're taking away cancer, or maybe, like, even AIDS in this instance.
Well, hold on. Like,
Actually, no,
the-
AIDS, no. Because you should be, like, prosecuted for being promiscuous, but that's another topic.
I also think this is
Interesting.
One more thing I gotta throw in it, because it's like,
It's insane.
wait.
That's another topic, though. That's another topic.
Threw you off with
That's
that.
another
Hold
topic.
on.
Are we going?
I
one
need-
by one right now?
Oh,
Is
if
that
you're
the
gonna
idea?
say something like that, I think is
Yeah, you gotta give me a second.
have every right to go after you. I'm just
You guys
saying.
give me a
but-
second. Wait.
Yeah.
After you said that,
That's another topic.
No,
You
it's
wanna
another
discuss
topic.
in
It's
the
another
DMs?
topic. It's an
Yeah,
it's another
different
topic.
topic.
You take it out however you want
You just
to.
stunned me, so I gotta recall what I was saying.
What he just said is dumb, okay? And I'm pretty sure we can
No,
do
it's
this.
another topic. It's another topic.
It's
No,
another
you can't
topic.
use it as a defense. You
just do
can't
that.
use it as a defense. You can't.
You can't just
You can't.
bring up a topic.
Wait.
It's
Wait,
another
hold
topic.
on. Let me say
Don't
something. Let me say something. You cut it off, bro. You cut it off. I can't even hear you right now. Like, your MS is like more higher than my freaking dopamine receptors right
Sounds
now.
like
But anyways,
AIDS.
I'm saying this genetic editing has the ability to take away age or no? That's my question. If yes, then like,
Take away what?
should people be more like this genetic editing has the ability to take away AIDS or not? Does it?
Yeah.
HIV.
it's-
Wait. Oh,
Sure.
so the case that she read in the beginning is it was a Chinese doctor. He actually got arrested and in prison for 3 years because of doing that.
This is China, right?
Yeah, in China. 'Cause, in
Okay.
Russia, there was a guy who was trying to get rid of deafness, but they didn't. I don't know if they fled. I didn't look more into his case. But this case, the guy got arrested. It was successful, so like they're immune from getting HIV, which means like you can't get AIDS if you can't get HIV. So it's like
Well, I don't.
crazy.
Well, the thing
I
is
don't
about
know where those kids
this
are
was
nowadays, though.
like dumb though. Like that's like really
I don't know
dumb.
who they are.
Okay, I get everyone here is like a
I don't know
leftist, but
if we know
still.
where those two kids are at right now.
This isn't
There's
kind
two
of
little girls in China.
a leftist
No, I
thing.
know, but I mean, like,
It's just like a really dumb thing to say.
Oh, they lived.
Yeah, like I know that I tried to look into it. I
Well,
couldn't
yeah,
find it.
yeah.
So we
Look,
like I don't know 100% if it's fully successful or if there was a mutation.
Well,
or-
yeah, that was kind of why he was prosecuted because there were so many unknowns at the time. Like, and I think there's still a lot of unknowns.
Yeah.
They're not really.
What's his
they're
name?
not going through with that.
Hashtag free whatever his name is. Free him.
I think
really
where we
no,
were all establishing
No.
our positions was a good direction to head in. I'm not sure who said that, but
Yeah.
we still should go one by one.
Yeah, I already did my
Derailed when he said
rebuttal.
that promiscuity thing. I was like,
Okay, next.
So,
Okay, whatever.
prosecuted
What's your
prosecuted
stand?
by giving them
so far
AIDS.
I heard
Prosecuted
Jack and
by
H. Dave,
giving
so
them
Smith now.
AIDS. Okay, we should. I
Smith.
don't think we should prosecute by giving people AIDS. But I do think that it's totally fine and great to weed out defects in humans. I like that. I don't think that we should do any type of cosmetic thing aside from defects, because I think that is a slippery slope. That is like fashion is a game that you can only win by not playing. Okay, everybody that like caring about all that shit makes your life worse. And if you care about how your kid looks, it's going to make your kid's life worse. And there's just insecurity, and we put it on each other. It's toxicity. It's unhealthy. There's
what if
nothing
it's just
productive about
insecurity
that.
for you? Why does it have to be insecurity for everyone else?
There is no reason
Yeah,
to
we-
I mean,
think that
you
you're
have an
alive.
insecurity as a parent, then think about how that kid's gonna be raised, bro. Like, have bad
Well,
virtues and shit.
Yeah, like a
Yeah,
parent
yeah.
that wants the best for
What's a,
them.
hold on. What's a bad virtue?
A bad virtue is like having your whole
Wanting a
value
good-looking children.
tension upon. Yeah, like your whole values tension upon how you look. Like that's not really, especially for the
What's
women.
that
Like
bad?
that's kind of.
It's not necessarily
No,
that's
but
your
I'm
whole
saying,
value.
though,
It's
I'm
just
saying-
that's the only value that's being demonstrated at this point in their life.
I mean,
Would you say
your values
say
not-
people who are like extreme weightlifters have bad virtues?
weightlifters?
Yeah,
I mean, as in,
like
like,
people
obese
whose
lifters like
value
that?
people whose value value is like to try to get as muscular as possible.
Or like to have a six
I mean, if you earn that through exercising and eating healthy, then I think they should earn value because of that hard work.
What about Arnold? What about Arnold? Should Arnold be virtuous? Is Arnold virtuous?
Okay.
Is Arnold virtuous?
Wait. Well, better question. What if that bodybuilder encourages his child to get a six pack?
Guys, we're derailing again.
And okay,
No,
there's a
this
difference
matters.
between having to go through
Somebody
adversity,
was
going
just
to
stating
exercise,
an opinion,
and
and then
training and
Jack
all this shit.
interrupted again. So
Okay.
All right.
I mean, these guys are niggas. These niggas are talking about something else, but yeah,
Well,
go
I
ahead.
think I think almost everyone here is on the same page about the like just
Yeah,
genetic
so-
disorders. But who here is okay with phenotypical like changes?
Yeah, so
Just you?
as a resident
Fuck that,
extremist, let me put my input in. So I think one reason that I'm for this is because we're acting as if there's a hard line between medically necessary and cosmetic, right? But I think we can also agree that some cosmetic things we're okay with fixing. Physical deformities, we're saying, hey, that's fine, right? The question is also, when we talk about mental issues, right? Where do they start? Where do they end? Well, you would say, well, let's go by the definition for, being a special needs. Let's use, even though I don't think it's a accurate reflection of intellectual capacity, let's say IQ, right? Let's say that, right now, whatever it is, I think it's like 50 or 60 or something below
It's like one of those
is considered
lower
mentally challenged, right? And so we could say, well,
Me for real.
in 50 to 100 years ago, someone who was that IQ might have been perfectly fine in
50
society,
gang.
right? So
Yo.
maybe we raise that number because our society has certain demands, right? So the average raises or whatever. The problem that we get into is that as society progresses, the average, IQ necessary, as we might say, or the bar at which we call someone mentally handicapped could raise, right? If it's based on the average, right? And so I think one problem is that we're saying there's a hard line between medically necessary and not, and also say cosmetic, right? We say cosmetic things; these aren't the same, right? But when you consider certain aspects, right? So, for example, let's consider jaws, right? One reason why some people have weaker jaws than others is because developmentally they don't chew enough hard foods early on as a child, right? And so you see children that chew a lot of very soft foods. This is why when you look at kids in highly developed first world countries, they tend to have less robust faces than children in developing countries. One reason for that is because fewer processed foods means their jaws develop better because they're having to do what they evolved to do, right? And I think there's certain things like this where we can say, hey, sure, it's considered cosmetic, but there are physiological reasons why, right? And when you look at things like, I believe someone mentioned about, traits, when you gain something through adversity, through battling illness or some type of condition, that might help you succeed. It could be correlated with success, and that could be true. But you know what else is correlated with success? Height, right? For the average male who's taller tends to be more successful, right? Certain traits can be correlated with success, but that's not a reason to, is that a reason actually to put preference to them, right? Do we, and I think that ultimately the fear of that, are we going to, Skyrim character creator, our children, is a bit overblown, because I think that while it may be possible some parents want to customize exactly how their child is, the more likely scenario is that there's a range of traits that they want and a range of traits that they don't want. Generally, parents want their kids to be like them, and I think that's perfectly okay.
Okay, I want to address.
But I have a
you're
question
saying
for
that
this.
there's a hard line. Okay, so like I agree that it is a spectrum. In the case of like cleft palate, there is a hard line with like having a cleft palate and stuff. But like maybe you could say that like you could theoretically say, that guy with really big hands. You guys know who I'm talking about? Like there's like this one guy that has really big
Dude,
hands.
he has huge hands. Like
yeah,
he has
and
massive
The arm
hands.
wrestler guy?
It is,
No,
and it's not. They're like
Oh, him?
they're like really really big, and it's not like a deformity. Like it's like actually like he actually just has big hands. It's not like something fucked up. I don't think you should be able to get rid of that. But you could argue, especially like that it is a spectrum and stuff. But I don't. I think I'm comfortable like arguing on every specific thing and making a hard line of when it is like statistically anomalous enough for it to be something that we should remove, like having a cleft palate. You could say that's fine or whatever. No, but yeah, it's all, like we can make those lines. Those lines don't exist in nature, but we have to make them, and I want them to be far away.
But I think we already give parents so much autonomy over their children. The question is, the only difference is now we're adding an extra tool into it, right? When you look at least legally, right? When you look at things like a mother can federally drink and give her kid an increased risk of this without consequence, right? Abortion, right? A mother can choose, hey, I don't want to have this child, right? And we're giving pretty much full autonomy prenatal to the mother and to the parents in general. And I think this is following that same precedent. We're simply giving that extra tool to the parents. And this is already.
I don't know. But my question is, I don't know if we should do that, right?
Who gets
it's one thing?
rights?
It's one thing if somebody's not gonna keep a kid, because I think part of what makes a human is the idea of like wanting to keep that initial human, wanting to like raise it and wanting to do something with it. But if somebody like I would question if somebody's a mother who they're going to keep their kid, but they just continue drinking, I feel like we should kind of punish that.
Yeah.
Just like some way or another.
The about like the going towards like the more aesthetic kind of thing. I think that I don't know if somebody's touched on this. I haven't heard it. Maybe I just like missed it. But I feel like we're not considering that in the topic at hand with like gene editing, this is a child that will be born or that they are planning to be born. And whenever it comes to things like defects or medical deficiencies or like things that are going to harm them or like make their life a little bit like a lot harder, aesthetic things, like what if they grow up and they don't like the aesthetics that you chose? Like what if they don't want to look like that? So I mean, I feel like whenever it comes to things that, in my opinion, I'm okay with gene editing as long as what you are editing out can be shown that it is either the thing being edited out is demonstrably harmful or disadvantageous, and the thing being edited in is advantageous. But as far as like aesthetic things, like that's so personal and personalized that I feel like if the child grows up to not like it, then you have done a disservice to your child. That therefore becomes harmful, and it's your fault.
But aesthetics can be advantageous and disadvantageous, right?
But aesthetics are so personalized that
other people. It's not like an inherent thing. That's because other people chose to be assholes to people that look like this or something. So if you're black, you're gonna want to have a white kid because their life's gonna be better. By a lot.
I think that's incongruent with the.
That's what's coming up.
Yeah.
Wait. I can make my child white. Is that what it is?
Yeah, if you could do that, it would make their life better.
About that. I don't know if it's there yet, but like eventually the science would be there.
It's not going to help the lack.
I wouldn't do it either.
But like, what if you aesthetically edited your child? They grow up, they look in the mirror, and they be like, "I really hate my nose," or "I really hate my jawbone," and the mom's like, "Well, I picked that out just for you," and it's like, "Well, I don't give a fuck if you picked it out just for me. I didn't have any say in it." But it's like, "Hey, I edited out your your Down syndrome or your like cerebral palsy." They'll be like, "Wow, thanks, mom. That's fucking cool. I don't have to deal with that now." But like for something aesthetic, I can see that backfiring like really, really hard, and then it ends up harming them. So I think that's if that wasn't a case, I'd probably on board with the editing for aesthetic like reasons.
No, but you don't understand. You don't understand. People with that feature statistically have worse lives. So you don't know. You don't understand. You don't know what's good for you, buddy.
I think give them.
That was facetious. Yes, that was. Okay, cool.
It was facetious. Yeah.
Clearly.
I think there's a difference.
I mean, I had a mullet when I was in second grade, and I didn't fucking like that at all. It's my parents' choice. So.
Wait, I got this question, right? So let's say you have a child and she has all the genetically advantageous, genetics and everything. Does that actually necessarily mean that's gonna have a successful life?
No.
Like, yeah, 100%? That's another issue here. We're just assuming that, like, because you're like 6 foot.
Like, hey, 6'4", I'm so high, I'm 8, I'm sexy, but like, how much of like?
It's not gonna happen.
Well, this is why I'm more okay with it.
Chance.
This is why I'm more okay with it, because environment is, from what I've read, environment is so much more important, right? What was it? So genetics are not necessarily. Sorry, let me think 1 second. What was it I said? Wait, sorry, someone else talk. Let me think 1 second.
Genetics aren't necessarily an indicator for like life success.
Yeah, but also environmental.
Was it when you were talking about correlation isn't causation with like height and CEO?
So genetics, so genetics are not determinative, but they can be prohibitive, right? So I think even if you give someone all of the traits or whatever that we would consider highly advantageous, they could still easily fuck up their lives, right? And if you give someone all the very disadvantaged traits, they can end up being an incredibly successful person. I think we have numerous examples of society that are very inspiring like that, right? But I think that it is also fair to say that we're not saying that everybody has to look this way or everybody has to do these things, right? But I think that if you're telling someone you don't get to choose whether if your kid's going to have this or not, I think we're in a position where that right should exist. And whether the concern of that, maybe the kid's going to be pissed at the parents later, well, guess what? It's the same thing for them. If they want to change that nose, whether that's from randomness or whether from someone selected a range of possible noses, they could still get that changed, right? And I think, the only difference is who they're mad at. It's their parents instead of God or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I think the difference.
At least they have that personal choice, and that it wasn't like done for them. Like they could have grown up to have something that they would have liked, and they won't ever know that now. I feel like what you just said still exists if the parents don't edit it, and then not like there's not somebody to blame, it's not like putting the blame on the parent, which can cause, if that does happen, it causes some pretty bad, harsh negativity inside in the home life, doesn't it? Like if you're starting to resent your parents for something that trying to build a bear your ass, I mean, I'm sure that they might be a little bit upset, and that's going to cause some problems, unnecessary problems. I feel like, so if you just don't edit aesthetically and stick to things that can be demonstrably harmful or advantageous, then yeah, edit those out. But if it's just aesthetics, then I don't see the reason.
If we are editing, everybody's ignoring the fact that the reason that we think that things are flaws that have no actual biological downside, just ugliness and shit like that. The reason that we think these things are flaws is just insecurity and inequality and shit, maybe more poor people have this quality, so we're going to have this attitude, and that's what leads to these statistics. And if we change that by fixing the people's features and shit, we're going down a slippery slope, a never-ending journey that is a race to the bottom, and there's no end to that.
It's the never-ending journey.
It's not 100% insecurity, right?
It is.
So what's to stop people from thinking that
okay,
we get rid of all the things that we consider ugly now
because of certain biological
10 years from now,
right?
There's a new wave of what is considered ugly, and then all of a sudden we've shrunk within 100 years or 200 years. We've shrunk everything down to everyone looks exactly the same. We are the blobs.
Yeah,
I think that could be compelling, but I think that our standards of beauty also, we can see how varied they are, especially across cultures, right? And what is considered beautiful in one culture is totally different from another, right? And I think that the idea of a convergence on beauty standards isn't necessary.
No, that's not the point. That is not the critical point, though. It doesn't matter if it converges or not. In different cultures, we have ideals of what beauty is, and this is a matter of fact. There are countries that are having more and more plastic surgery, and for instance, Korea, 10% of women have plastic surgery in Korea, and to get a job 20%. You have to. 20% now, and to get a job you have to have face shots and shit, and your appearance is just such a high factor and everything. And if we had this, your appearance of not having these ugly features is going to be a signifier of your wealth and a status too. And all these things about appearance, it's not a hyper specific. Plastic surgery and genetic changes to your appearance are very
with headshots.
Okay, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. American girls are getting plastic surgery so that they can look more attractive because they think that they're more valuable when they're more attractive, which is not a good thing that we have. That it's bad that we value women by more by their appearance than any of their skills and shit. And so if that's the path that we go down, constantly changing people's appearance so that we can be deserving of love and fitting into society, that is a never ending race to the bottom.
Yeah, but when you say that, loaded. You're assuming that all we're valuing is the looks here. We're not just valuing the looks. This is just one piece of it. There is still the whole other human. That's kind of my issue. It's
the thing we're talking about is changing the looks.
No, but the thing is, Jack,
that's just one piece of a human being. You're saying it's if you change
one piece,
the looks, that must be the most important thing, and that's not the case.
That's not what I said.
No, but the thing is, though, Jack, the thing is, like, people are gonna judge by surface value, and having that comedic, like, that cosmetic genetical editing is gonna it's gonna like make that thing more valid per se. Does that make sense? Like, it's really counterproductive.
If you think that somebody is more valuable when they're not fucking ugly, they're not one of those fucking ugly people, they're gonna have a better life. They're not one of those fucking scum ugly people.
They might.
Yeah, that's not good. It's not good that we have that attitude. That attitude is the problem, not the ugly person. It's us.
Do you think?
Are you sure that humans are just attracted to what biologically is like the imperative, like what we are attracted to
but despite
like
that,
every other creature?
If that was true, then we would not like plastic surgery. But we get plastic surgery, so that's not true.
I think we need a bit of a reality check because I don't think. While I agree, it would be wonderful if that physical characteristics, whether you were good looking or ugly, didn't affect whether you were tall or short. It would be good to live in a society where that didn't affect people's lives, right? But that can provide significant advantages, disadvantages, right? And we could say, well, getting over those disadvantages makes someone strong. But I disagree with that somewhat, right? Because I think that people will find difficulties no matter what their life is if they are that type of person.
So for every person that changes their appearance, like or changes their kid's appearance so that they'll have better outcomes in life, it makes everybody else's life worse because they're more ugly. So every one person that does this, everyone else is more ugly. So now more people have to do this.
Okay, so
if
you believe,
yes, necessarily.
If you believe that you would pitch,
no,
if you believe that you would pitch
touched on that everyone
potentially,
has different standards.
No, that's not how this. That's not like you're just hand waving away what I'm saying. That's completely
no. Like that was actually exactly.
vacuous.
You agreed with him, and you said that cultures have different standards.
Okay. Do you think
And
that
yeah,
beauty
sure.
standards?
In every culture, there's cultures
do
that
you
pay
think that
plastic
beauty
surgery to meet
do
their
you
standards?
Do you fucking think that beauty standards exist?
Yes.
Okay, let's move on.
What? Wow, Megamind.
What do you mean?
Wait. So let's just say this, right? So this cosmetic editing thing becomes a thing, right? It's gonna amplify that problem of looking at people at face value even further, don't you think? Like Jack, like it's gonna just continue that. That's why not? Like it's gonna people are gonna.
Here's Smeth's issue. Smeth's issue is that it might be okay for beauty standards to exist, right? That's just okay in the sense of that's just something that crops up. But with this, you're saying
okay at all.
No,
first
Smeth, do you think it's okay in the sense that it's just that is a thing that happens? There's no matter what you do, there's probably going to be some set of standards that tend to crop up.
Right. And if those standards are now informed by genetic modification or plastic surgery and stuff, now that's a worse society.
So the issue is there's a set of standards that naturally crop up. But Smeth's issue is in this, you're feeding into those by completely altering. You're not looking at natural standards. You're looking at I watched anime and I like this feature in anime, and now I want people to start having some of these features. Oh, actually,
that's my issue.
Now there's
not
people with these bigger
anime
eyes.
and wants to have bigger eyes.
Wait.
Some families,
not everyone
they just want to have a
but over time we seem to coalesce.
In your retarded world, ugly people don't exist, but that's not true. They do exist, and then you have no position. You have no thought. You have no brain.
No, ugly people exist, but it's what you're saying is they can't modify anything. Yeah, they can modify it. It's not necessarily going to make them good looking. It's not necessarily going to make them uglier or anything. It's just that's what happens.
The whole point is, Jack, is that the thing is people already categorize people at face value, but it's going to amplify the face value thing even further with this cosmetic editing shit.
It's bro, you're ugly and you won't even go fucking change yourself. Think about how ugly that is.
Exactly.
It's funny because this is literally the plot of Gattaca, right? Of that.
But it's going to amplify the problem even further. That's the issue.
No, but people have already changed their facial features and changed their looks. We're not running into that problem. There's a hyper-specific
We are running into that problem.
What do you mean we're not running into that problem? There's literally fucking rooms of incels that will sit with each other all day and try to look max and try to fuck themselves over. And they'll there's a new trend going around where people are fucking hitting themselves in the face with hammers to try and change their bone structure on their face.
Women wear makeup.
You're saying
wear makeup. The majority of women wear makeup.
Makeup,
and they all wear freaking lipstick.
Yes,
it is.
No, wait.
No,
it kind of is, dude.
Not at
think
all.
about it this way. Why the fuck would women need to wear makeup in a work setting, especially work settings like hospitals or work settings like vets or any area where it's they're just doing other work that doesn't really entail them having to try to look good for anybody.
Makeup.
Okay, do you guys
They're humans. What do you
Good
mean?
looking.
Like they're people.
Some of them aren't good looking. That's it.
Jack,
like,
can
they're
I
nice to look
talk?
at.
You've been
Bro,
talking
wait,
about it.
Wait.
I've literally
That's the
been
issue.
talking for the last
You're
10
saying they're
minutes.
not good looking.
Stop. Neve wants to talk. Go.
Go, Dave.
Okay, so it seems to me that you guys are identifying that like being ugly or like not meeting a particular standard is like a deficiency in society. Like you might as well call it a disability based on the way we're talking about it. Do you also agree? Like, would you also agree that like pretty privilege exists? To like
Yeah,
parallel
but
that?
it's more this.
Definitely.
Like, it's more advantageous though.
Yeah.
It's more advantageous.
Yeah, pretty privilege definitely exists.
Yeah.
Can it
really
exist
does.
without surgery?
Yes.
Then
Of course.
then I feel
Racism,
like
bad-
okay, like I don't know, we're already creating like unattainable beauty standards by things like I don't want to say BBLs, like obviously those look fucking weird. But
why continue to feed into them? Like,
Yeah,
why
right.
continue to feed into this shit standard? Like, it's one thing if it's like, okay, these people are just like naturally more beautiful, but like even on the makeup thing, the way you said like, oh, they're butt ugly without makeup. Like, are they? They're like that's their
Exactly.
natural state. That's like
Because
when I look at like my mom or my sisters walking around without makeup, do I look at them being like, oh, that's the ugliest fucking human I've ever seen in my life? No, that's a normal person. When I've seen like normal women without makeup, women around my life without makeup, not just my mom and my sister's friends, anybody. Like, is it the end? Like, do I look at them like you are now a creature from the Black Lagoon walking out like in the fucking muck? Like,
I
what?
get it.
Pokemon though.
like
You
what's
don't give
happening
them
though?
the benefit of the doubt
It is
until you're
a
familiar
mirror
with
effect,
them. If you're not familiar with them, you're
Opposite,
gonna buy it and
Dahlia?
be like, ugh, and keep going. It's not
Right,
like
so
a bad
so for
thing.
women,
It's just
where
innate.
the fact that
Wait, the point there is that-
women
Go ahead.
the fact that women wear makeup, like I was saying before, like the fact that this genetic alteration, the fact that women wear makeup makes all
we're
women
still-
more ugly as a result, and it means that women now have to wear makeup to be beautiful.
Okay, so
It seems
what
like
I-
people
no,
online
no,
don't
you
even
do.
know what women look like anymore because of like all the editing
Mhm.
and
I don't know
photos and
about
makeup.
that. I mean, listen,
Bro,
I've been with plenty of
like-
girls who just wear eyeliner and you don't even realize. It's just like
Off topic, really.
people need different things, bro. It's not like this major. And
Low
everyone's
key, we're
wearing
getting off
clown
topic. We
masks.
went from genetic editing to freaking makeup and all this
That's
bullshit.
not me.
Like,
Yeah, I was gonna
what are we
say, I
doing?
feel like
You
we're
guys.
bogged down on like the most
Yeah, I think
boring
I
part
think
of this conversation.
Like let's
Like,
move
we
on
are
to the
way
fucking
off track.
HIVs and
No,
AIDS
we're
and
not.
shit,
This
like,
is exactly the
AIDS.
point. The point is that this genetic editing is we're changing, like we're reinforcing beauty standards, which are completely arbitrary, and it means that when every person that we're going to genetically edit makes everyone uglier, and it means that we're going to have to do this to compete, and then the standard's going to get more stern and more stern, and everybody's going to have to get more modifications so that they can be the elite faces. The more makeup that women wear, the more more face filters that women wear, the more face filters and the more makeup that women have to wear so that they can compete, because you don't want to be a fucking ugly, normal looking woman
Okay,
with
I
a
see
fucking
what you're
real
saying,
face.
but
Ooh.
as far as I've heard, there is one person on this panel who's in favor of that. Everyone else was just saying the medical stuff.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Like, is anyone else in
person
favor of
is,
that?
yeah, I don't think
Well,
that
I
he's
guess-
Yeah, I just have an issue with your
is
body
in favor of
standard
the
and like
aesthetic.
beauty standard stuff. It's weird.
I don't know, but all
Well,
this
do we want to
fucking
get into
shit-
whether or not it would be good to create a level playing field where everybody has like an equal starting level of strength and intelligence and other things that we consider positive?
Yeah, I wouldn't
grade
want
I mean-
standardization.
I don't know if that's
Ah,
attainable.
who said that?
Like,
I don't know,
Well,
bro. That's not really
genetics
possible
in
because
this
the-
conversation that would be attainable through like genetic modification, but I don't think that we should have that. No,
I think
everybody gets
no,
an
we
equal
should-
start. Nah, fuck that.
Nah, this equal shit, like this whole like egalitarian, whatever the fuck. I think people should be retarded and also smart at the same time. That's what makes a good society.
What the fuck?
Because you gotta give a reason for the smart niggas to do retard. Like, I don't know. Like, okay, never
I
mind.
get what you're
Pass on,
saying.
pass on.
Like you need the
Pass
smart
on.
people to help like
That
the
shit
like,
was
not as
retarded
smart
and
people.
smart at
to
the
Yeah,
same time.
yeah. I mean, there's gotta be leaders and people that are subordinates. Without subordinates, there's no leaders.
There's got to be
So-
Yeah, like,
Einsteins, and then there's got to be like the factory
Yeah,
worker.
Einstein's the IQ of like
Yeah.
160.
But I don't
the
think,
IQs of
like-
40,
Oh wait,
all
if that's
bullshit.
yeah, no, like that's a great but that goes back to like variation. Like also, by the way, the makeup, all of this, it's like analogous to the genetic variation. All you're doing is talking about like these standards we're setting. Like you could talk about makeup, you could talk about like beauty standards in media, you could talk about anything. All of it goes or back to genetic editing. All of it goes back to this. I think the only difference is genetic editing is like more of an ethical question.
Yeah, so I think we
Yeah,
could
we're
get
gonna
all,
do the
brave
extreme
new
version
world
of
of that. Are we going to be, customize, do we need this variation? And if that's the case, do we just, customize people for specific jobs, right? I think that's not quite right. And I think that while the question that, oh, we need certain different people in society to do different things. I think that's true, but I don't think that's genetically determined. And I think that could be, probabilistically could impact it. But much of what we choose to do, right? You can look at case studies with twins, right? Twin studies where you have two people that same genetics end up doing totally different things, totally different outcomes. And I think that we're forgetting how important, right, this variation of environment, I think, is so deterministic that when we're talking about these changes in genetics, the reason that I'm more okay with it is because I think it is less impactful, so much less impactful than their day-to-day life that someone will
But that
have.
doesn't mean anything, because what you're saying is it will have an impact enough to matter, but also it's not impactful, so it doesn't matter. And all your concerns, they don't matter because it's not that impactful. But that, no, you're just hand-waving it by saying
Not what I'm saying.
Okay.
So to clarify, my position is that when you're looking at the in regard to the makeup example or I agree that if all of a sudden we say we're going to gene edit people and we're going to make attractive people or whatever, and then the people who don't have these customized traits, or that it'll almost raise the standard. And like you said, we've seen that with makeup, that the attractiveness standard seems to keep raising and raising and raising, right? And would that type of gene editing accelerate it? And I think that's probably the case where it would. The reason why I still think it's okay is because that's going to continue regardless, and that I think when you're talking about providing prenatal advantages to someone, I think that is something that can be much more equitable than the types of advantages that get through day-to-day that are provided right post-natal.
Well, hold on. Just because something is necessarily like negative, such as like beauty standards or something, I feel like just saying that, well, it's going to happen anyway, so let's do this so let's just do this. I don't think that's a good reason. Like, maybe it's not analogous. Like, let me know if it's not. But I feel like, climate change, that happens naturally. But I would say that, it's going to happen naturally, so we can pump as much like bad shit into the air as possible because it's going to happen anyway. I think that like what Smith was saying is that you feeding into it, and what you said about accelerating these certain types of things is kind of analogous to that. You're going, bad things like beauty standards do happen, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we should feed into it and expedite that. Like, if anything, like I don't necessarily agree with making people like all equal or anything, but I don't know. I think that expediting it isn't a good. I don't think that's a good justification.
I think that beauty can give you beauty can give you an advantage, but that's not fair. Like we should, I think the advantages we should focus on shouldn't anything but like if it's physical strength, that I'm gonna be more on board with you, stuff like that. But in the case of beauty, I think that is like just a detriment to we're focusing on like a mental illness, and we're like changing people to match a mental illness.
I think if this was like D&D, beauty is just like a boost to your charisma modifier, which is like really nice to have in society. But the reality is we're probably better off starting to recognize that every individual probably like can maximize at some skill that they have throughout their life that they've developed. We have to start looking at these individuals, actually like trying to figure out like who's good at what, and then trying to help them maximize their potential at what they're good at, right?
I fucking love D&D.
You don't have to be the best looking person to be somebody who's just like generally a very like you could be very charismatic without the best looks, right? Or you could also just like work on your fucking like social skills to see like maybe I might not be charismatic, but maybe I could develop like really deep personal interconnections with people, right? Or maybe I might not be charismatic and it's hard for me to make these connections, but I could find ways to get people to like me through other methods. You just have to find I don't know why we have to alter ourselves just to hope that like if I look better, I'm going to get something out of it when we could just work on these other issues. And I think it's like I do agree that over time humans are probably going to get better and better looking, even if we got rid of everything and there was just like some base natural level. But I think that's like a much slower process, and it's much easier to identify with another human who doesn't have these like extreme altered characteristics than it is like to go like than it would be to identify with the genetically altered fucking like model who keeps like posting their photos online.
My position though is just a parent should have the right to provide advantages to their kids even before they're born, right?
But can you demonstrate?
I disagree because them doing that hurts me. It hurts my kid. If my kid doesn't do it and your kid does, it hurts my kid that your kid did it.
I don't think that should matter. But what I'm saying is that, like, can you demonstrate that the aesthetic change is going to be beneficial and not negatively impact them, like, personally? Can you like? Is that?
So
I
think
we
it's
don't know
all
if the beauty
environment-
standard changes or not. There's no like prediction model. There's nothing for this. You can't know.
No, not the beauty standard thing. Their personal thing. Like I said before. Like if you decide to change them aesthetically and they grow up to not like your aesthetic change, that can cause harm. This isn't a beauty standard thing, or maybe it would tie into the beauty standard, but it's their personal belief. It's their personal feelings that you changed, and it's your fault.
I just want to
There actually is a prediction model.
Like what?
Sorry,
it's
Smith,
not
I just
good.
want to respond here. So, in regard to, if I give my kid an advantage, is that giving your kid a disadvantage, by competitive nature of the world? Sure, but we already do that, right? If you give your kid advanced SAT, ACT tutoring, and someone else's kid doesn't have it, that is by definition, you're raising the standard SAT, ACT, you're making the other kid harder to get into those schools. And we're okay with that, right? We already live in that kind of world where we accept
but that's
those
different
things.
because that's
No, but that perpetuates
I'm very pro
problem, though.
I'm very pro meritocracy, but I'm not pro like genetically more attractive people, and I don't think being pretty is meritocracy.
But I think if
but, like,
one
what
kid
if-
has, are you okay with one kid with, say, a family being able to provide one kid tutoring and the other kid is not
Right.
isn't able to get that from his family?
I think that we should.
right?
I think the solution would be that we have to get the other kid tutoring. But in the case of beauty, I don't think that that's a thing. Like, I don't think that the
Well,
solution is
no.
to make sure that all kids get genetic enhancement so that they're all more pretty. I think that's awful.
Would you take away the other kid's tutoring to benefit your kid, or because that's unfair?
Yeah,
If
that's
you-
No,
the thing,
what I'm
right?
saying,
Is you're
what I'm
saying-
saying is, in that case, the solution. So I don't think it's bad that a rich kid gets tutoring. I think it's bad that a poor kid doesn't get tutoring. But in the case of beauty standards, I do think it's bad that the rich kid gets the beauty thing, and I don't think the solution should be that there should be a government program so that ugly people's kids will be less ugly because we can genetically modify them. I think that that's not good.
Smith,
So no.
Can we do a little thought experiment? Let's say like there was no tutor, there wasn't enough tutors. Like we couldn't get the poor kid a tutor. How do you solve it then?
Find better
Just because
alternatives,
like the ideal solution is you give everybody tutors. Like if you can't do it, like we have to deal with whatever we have. There will be.
Yeah, it's just a lack
inequality
of
in the world.
resources. That's like saying, what if we just didn't have enough fish to feed the village? Like,
nationalized
But
tutors.
the tutor isn't a fish. I think that's kind of the issue here. But also, it's like.
Isn't
but
it
why
not
would
but I
like
you-
think the point is, it's just a lack of resources. Like your hope would be you could try to to divide those resources to maximize efficiency in that village, right? But like at the end of the day, it would suck if there's not enough tutors.
But isn't
I
that kind
think
of like
in
the reality?
an
we live in?
ideal world,
We live in a scarce
No.
society.
I mean we
Kind
do,
of
right?
based
But then like
economics.
the question is,
ChatGPT, there's enough
this isn't
tutors,
just
period.
scarcity. This is more of an issue of we are completely altering a group of people and removing them from the general group of society.
What do you mean?
These people are meant, the reason we're altering them is to make them better than the others.
Did anybody watch the movie that this topic was based on?
Gattaca, yeah.
Yeah, I saw
Yeah.
it with Uma Thurman. She I'm
Yeah.
Barry, but that's the
Movie.
point.
I started
thing
watching.
is-
I hadn't watched it. I got like an hour in until the panel started, and then I had to hop on.
Yeah.
And how the societies kind of judge the people that were the pure borns or the natural borns. Do you guys think that if genetic modifications did occur, do you think that would happen? Can I get a
would.
general consensus on that?
I
Probably not.
100. I want you to know
Yes,
if
it
any
would.
of you
I don't even think
modify
you
your
guys would
children,
know.
I would judge your children. I
I'm
wouldn't
happy
have my
to
kids
know.
play with them.
If it's
Like,
like,
probably
if
like
it's
a-
90% of
movie.
people are modified and 10% aren't, then probably.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah,
I think that's
think,
for the older generation. The new generation to be modified, and that'll be a discrimination against different generations and shit like that. But to hop on the movie though, that would happen in the scenario where the genetic modification will only be accessible to the rich people and everything of that sort. So that'd be a classist issue more.
Yeah, because I don't know what class that what was his name? I know his fake name was Morrow or
Vincent.
something, but yeah, Vincent. I don't know what class his family was, but they didn't look rich, but they didn't look very poor. They looked middle class, which kind of ties back into what I was talking about, how middle class or lower middle class people would probably get this genetic modification through something
But
like
think about
insurance.
this: if it was accessible to all, you would never come to that problem of replacing the person that got paralyzed or whatever.
So wait, hold on. So I just want to provide a piece of I think statistical, a piece of a data information that I saw, but I didn't really put on the document. But I think that in about 10 years or 20 years or something like that, this kind of technology or whatever would be eventually accessible for the middle class,
Oh my
or
God.
whatever.
Oh my
It
God.
wouldn't be hitting the rich. Sure, it would hit the rich first, but it would become accessible to the middle class real quick.
Or you know what? You know what's interesting about that shit? Wait. I'm gonna say something. My fault. I was gonna say that like the middle class is shrinking anyway, so it's gonna be more poverty in the near future from the looks of it. So it's gonna be like a thing where only like a certain fragment of people are gonna get access to that genetic modification thingy. So still see the same issue where it's like a matter of accessibility based on wealth and also how much money you have and shit like that.
I think one clarification in regard to the CRISPR technology and access to it is that right now we're having very theoretical discussion about all the implications about what if you could customize a kid's looks. That's an extremely that's much farther than the current use of CRISPR. Things we're looking at are, for example, the turning of few genes on and off that are related to specific diseases. So just for clarification, the current wonderful thing about CRISPR is the ability to prevent certain diseases that have very clear genetic indicators that can be turned on and off, right? So the near 10, 20, 30-year future is going to be using CRISPR to edit out specific diseases, not the more theoretical looks editing discussion.
I'm on board with you. Let's go.
Wait, yeah, I think my name.
I remember. I love CRISPR. I remember that being around when I was like in high school, and I remember getting to talk to my teacher's sister who kind of worked on it, and she was working on it during the Zika virus when that was like an outbreak.
Yeah,
it was just the idea. It was like the idea of. Yeah, it was the idea of like genetically modifying fucking mosquitoes to like remove certain variants that would give them the capability of spreading disease.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but like we're all in agreement in like gene modification for like these like the broad majority of what it would be used for. That's kind of like why we got on the topic of aesthetics and stuff, because I mean like if we just stay on the topic of should it be for like what's going to harm them or like would be like advantageous, then I mean we'd just be sitting here all like nodding our heads like yeah, I agree with you, bud. But that's why we got to go to those like fringe cases, or why we have to go to those hypotheticals, because otherwise we're not going to have a conversation.
Or you know what, I think the whole conversation was just like if it's ethical to have these cosmetic changes to your child or whatnot. That's the whole thing.
Should it be ethical? Would it be ethical? Should parents be allowed to make a statistically disadvantaged change, like making their kids' dicks smaller? Should they be allowed to do that?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. If you do that, I'm calling
perseverant that kid would be. You know,
if you do that, I'm calling CPS. If you do that, I'm calling CPS.
I want to know how many CEOs have micro dicks. Okay, that's what's going to determine. All right.
Yeah. I'm gonna give my kid all of the worst features to build his characteristic level to the highest.
Exactly, dude. You just building that charisma.
Doesn't kill you.
If it was my child, bro, like 12-inch dick, no pause. I mean, things like that. But wait.
That's cosmetic.
12-inch? Oh my god!
Why'd you say no pause about your kid? Like what?
Yo.
Wait. Pause.
Do they come out like that?
Okay, let's. No, I mean, he wants to have that advantage, and so be it. That's the only cosmetic change I'm gonna do. But other than that, though, oh
my god!
Well, the thing
I want to
about
ask a
dick
question
size
for everyone in the panel.
With the really the thing about dick size is it doesn't give you an advantage because nobody knows how big your dick is until it comes out. So it really just is like feminism because it makes them have better orgasms. All right.
What if you accidentally give your kid like a too big of a dick and it like becomes like a health burden on them as a baby and they fucking like die or something?
On their face.
They have a heart attack and get their first boner and fucking fall over. Okay.
Yo,
I did notice your one subject about discussion of CRISPR and dick sizes, so I'm glad we could jump to that.
Wait, what
is that?
That's the third subject.
What is your question? What's the question?
I mean, yeah, I was gonna ask who's here's like left leaning and everything of that sort, because I'm gonna go inside like the sexual revolution kind of thing about genetics. Who's here's left leaning?
I'm a moderate.
Moderate.
All right. Okay.
Enlightened centrist.
Okay. Jack is like agnostic, right?
Ew, fit sitter.
No.
All right. So I was gonna say,
get out here, liberal.
I was gonna say, like, with all the sexual revolution stuff, we might come to a place where this HIV and AIDS might be genetically removed using this technology. So people should be more promiscuous once this technology is more accessible to everyone. Is the question?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
So, are you asking
would? So
or
what are
should?
like the pros? Like, Like, what are the pros and cons of having this accessibility to take away HIVs and AIDS using this technology?
People don't fucking
die.
die? What do you mean?
Okay, but what about the psychological effects? And everything?
So
What do you
currently,
mean psychological
I understand
effects?
what you're
Do you
talking
think
about.
there's a good psychological effect? Do you think there's a
Wait,
benefit
what's the
psychologically to getting
psycho-
AIDS?
Oh, now I don't have to worry about fluid exchange. Woo!
right,
what's
right.
happening?
No,
You still do
like,
because
No,
baby.
he's talking about like more of like the
Decrease the
negative effect
pregnancy,
on
you gotta worry
society
about.
of like.
can I ask H. Dave a
I'm
question?
saying you decrease. Yeah, what's up?
Are you familiar with though that there are current medications that exist for HIV that prevent transmission at a like 99.9% rate, right? So when you're talking about people don't have to worry about getting AIDS anymore. If people are tested and medicated for AIDS, the risk of contracting it or spreading it is near zero already.
Okay.
Inshallah, they remove those from the market.
All right. Does it apply for HIVs as well? Because like multiple
HIV
diseases
is
are
the
connected.
precursor to AIDS.
Yeah, if you
Yeah,
say if you
HIV
can't
is
get, if
one-
you can't get HIV, you're not getting AIDS.
All right.
Yeah,
I just
it
wanna ask.
So
basically
HIV
Okay.
develops
stops you
into
from
AIDS.
getting it. You have
Yeah.
I think what we should do. I
Yeah.
think what we should do. We don't even have to. Even have to bother with the gene editing for this. All we need to do is get a lot of cash, blend it up into a blender, and start injecting it into ourselves. I think that this was
Money
proven.
pit?
in
That's on South Park.
Yeah, this was South Park. Okay, I think this was proven. Like like 5 years ago on an episode of South Park. That's why Magic Johnson is never gonna fucking get AIDS. He's gonna stay stagnant at HIV for the rest of his
This
life,
guy
and is
knows
probably
stuff.
cured by now. Okay.
I think we
Holy
stopped
Christ.
testing with mercury way
Oh
too
wait,
early.
I got another take for this genetic thing. People will take more consumed foods, thinking that obesity will be less prevalent using this technology and everything. Should people more like eat more processed foods in that matter? Like
I don't know
the
if that's
food-
necessarily
yeah.
true.
Oh
it-
yeah.
This is where like
are
things
you
like beauty
saying-
standards and like body standards come in, where we could like
No, I'm saying,
encourage
like,
people to eat
There's
less
still gonna be
and be more like
carcinogens.
like French people, where we don't gourmand.
because think about
it's also
this,
you can
right?
still
Because like for me to be like fat or whatever, I can be skinny in like 3 seconds looking at this case, right? So should people like be less incentivized to exercise and everything of that sort, given that?
So I think one thing that we can say is that we should remove the factors that predispose someone to obesity, because there are genetic factors that increase the likelihood of someone developing obesity. And one thing that's interesting is because of course individual variation with how much you eat and the effect that has. Some people, right? There's metabolism that. Everybody knows there are different rates of metabolism. So one person could eat like total shit, and I'm sure everybody's seen this in their whole life. You have that one friend that eats fucking Burger King and Taco Bell every day, and they look great, right? You can't even
Wallah, I
tell.
want
You
to
have
kill
no
that
idea.
motherfucker.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
fuck you,
and
Jack.
then-
Fuck you, Jack. We hate you.
and then I eat a fucking Whopper and I gain 2 pounds the next day, right? And it's not fair. But
I'm gonna go get
the
McDonald's
thing
right
is
after
that if we could eliminate the factors that predispose someone to developing illnesses, obesity, cardiovascular diseases, right?
disease,
That's
yeah.
a good thing. Will it cause people to eat more fast food? People already eat fast food and they're having severe health difficulties, right? If you look at the types of the people that eat fast food the most, it's not healthy people that can afford to eat it.
People who are
It's the
skinny
people,
and work out.
yeah, it's the people who are already having severe health difficulties, right? So I think the thing you'll actually see is that because that type of obesity creates a disability, and as soon as someone's disabled, right, you get situations where they're eating and they have so much difficulty doing any type of physical activity, they're almost stuck there, right? And this is why you have things like Biggest Loser or whatever to get people out of these holes, and so often they end up falling in them again because of a combination of habits and genetic predisposition.
All right, I have a question.
Oh, wait, hold on. Before you go, obesity rate will be like decreased, given that matter. Sorry to cut you off.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Like, you think that obesity rate will be like far lower because of this technology shit? Like,
If you could,
Probably.
so if
Well, yeah,
we,
yeah,
if we
probably.
if we could remove the factors that predispose someone to obesity, which basically means that it is much easier for them to get obese, you would lower the rate, I think, because we tend to see that people eat fast food. Certain types of groups may eat fast foods at the same rates, but the consequences for one group may be much worse. So I think
Yeah, like I have an
I'm very
extremely fast
I'm very
metabolism,
skeptical about this.
so
I
I can
think
get away with it.
isn't that like contested science that like some people get fat easier?
no.
Like
So
the
so
difference.
contest-
What I
science-
heard
they
is that
contest-
the like the difference specifically, like not there's probably a bunch of different things, but the thing I heard is that the difference between metabolism is very negligible. Like you can have different lifestyles that change your metabolism and stuff, but like the baseline difference between metabolism is not even like relevant.
The reality is you're
Well,
probably going to still burn.
I would say, like,
the reality
yeah.
is you're probably still going to burn a certain amount of calories per day, and
Yeah,
if you
absolutely.
eat under that, you're going to
When you
lose
say,
weight.
like,
If you eat over that, you're going to gain. That's just
Well, that's just because I
Absolutely.
like spend like 3 hours jerking off every day and like to a cold sweat.
Oh, dude, you're
So-
a tuner?
And now you're skinny.
You be
based.
you
Yeah.
Nude.
No,
Yeah,
Wasting
lifestyle
the
changes
grooming
could definitely
sessions,
affect
bro.
your metabolism.
I can give one
For
example.
example, there's people who have
hey,
like
first,
thyroid conditions and like they have like either a really hard time gaining weight because I think it's like a hypothyroid or a hyperthyroid, and so it's like they'll be like people maybe they're like predisposed to be anorexic and they're also like really gaunt, they're skinny, and then there's like people who have hypothyroid and they get really like it's just like their body can't process the food for some reason, and it's like it's just what it is. And there's a lot of people who have these issues now because of things like certain types of foods and processes that are in our food now.
And I think you should be able to use the gene
scenario.
to get rid
I
of
have
that,
another
though.
scenario.
If you can use the gene modification to get rid of like the predisposition to like a hyperthyroid or a hypothyroid, I think you should totally be able to do that. What I was going to ask though, there's a gene. I can't remember the specific gene. It's like M7, whatever the fuck. Other apes have it. Our cousins have it. The like I think it's found in like gorillas, and it's like what gives them so much muscle mass. Like, would you be okay with like flipping that gene on? Would you be like do you think that'd be okay to do for your child? Give them double the muscle mass that they naturally would have? Like somebody correct me if I'm wrong.
What
If
would
that's
be like negative
I would draw the line.
other
Okay.
negative outcomes to this? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, there would be
I-
other
they
negative
might
outcomes.
die
like
at
a
like
physical
30 because they're
consideration.
overweight, like muscle mass wise, and your heart like explodes.
So,
I'd
so
have
an
to agree
actually
with
like
that.
reasonable consideration that I think I would make would be handedness, because the world is designed for like right-handed people for the most part. So I think that would be one that a lot of people could get on board with, because I think like
I
we can all
disagree
agree that
with that.
left-handed scissors are
Well,
fucking
through
Bro,
gene
I'm left-handed.
alteration.
This is discrimination,
Weird.
bro. This is
Is
Let's
that,
go
really,
ahead and
is that really
No.
something you're born with?
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
something you
No.
develop
Why do we
over
wanna get
time
rid of
when you're
it?
stupid.
Yeah.
something you're
Well,
predisposed
it's
to.
worth
might-
noting that
wait,
some
I have
people
another
also
scenario
have
for,
Yeah, but I think it's the
Right.
same. I think it's the
Right.
same.
It's a
One at a
combination of-
time. One at a time. Thank you.
Handedness is
like-
probably. Oh god.
Okay, sorry, just like to complete my point, handedness over like, okay, I can make my kid jacked so he like never gets beat up. Like that's just a more
Yeah.
reasonable way to
Yeah,
go
but even
about it.
I think handedness
Well, that's
is a
the
really good
problem
example.
there,
But I
too.
think it's a good example for like the point Smith and I and like some others in here have kind of been making, where it's like why should that matter? Like it mattered for a long time, and there was a lot of people who were right-handed. But then you get rid of it mattering, and then there's a lot of people who just happen to be left-handed, can like function pretty well in society
Well,
as left-handed people.
regardless
Like me.
It can
of
be
the
it
genetics
can be
of
advantageous.
lateralization, regardless
if-
of the genetics of lateralization or
Hang
what
on, hang on.
traits may or may not be
1 second.
advantageous, like being jacked like a gorilla, we don't have the technology for this right now. We're all seem to
No.
be operating off of the assumption that
That's
we're
the
using-
point though.
If
Yeah, no, we're
wanted to
looking
decide
forward.
on
We're looking
something-
forward as if like we know, like, all right, yeah, you're gonna be able to get rid of like
Someone
obesity
didn't
and,
read
like,
the
these genes.
document.
in a world where you could make your child if you
We have a
could
document?
change whether or not your child is
Yeah, there was.
left-handed, why would your child ever be right-handed? Because I assume you could just make them ambidextrous, so it wouldn't matter.
Yeah,
Take it.
that's
Like,
true.
why would
That's
you
actually
make
so
your
true.
child
That's
right?
what
That's
I
what I
was
was
Flat
thinking.
advantage.
I
Okay,
want
but maybe, but we still live in a world where things are generally designed for people who have right hands, right? So that would be also crippling ourselves if were ambidextrous, because that is also something you discourage your kids from being when they're younger.
I disagree.
I
that
think-
even
the handedness
even
things-
making the assumptions that we are in a place where we can make alterations to these things.
No, we're not.
We're talking
It's
about a
not
situation.
necessary though. Like,
We're
why would
talking
you make
about
your
hypothetical
Talking about the future
implications, so we can
implications.
debate.
Yeah.
We know
So
that
we're
we can't
talking
do this
about
right
Everything
now.
that we can
hypotheticals, so
do, we
engaging
are we all agree on everything we
this
can do. So
hypothetical.
there's nothing to talk about. You're just ending the conversation.
Epic.
Okay,
Well, yes,
Do
I
you-
can
wait, do you want to
because-
end the conversation
I
there?
don't
Do you want to
understand
just
why
stop
we're
it? Like
the
we can't do
conversation
this.
about eugenics to
Don't
begin
tell the
with.
whole
We're talking
conversation.
about
Okay, I had another.
implications of a world. We're talking about implications of the world where we could just alter genes like they were clay.
Yeah, I think we can end
a whole
it
different
now.
species.
We can end it now.
Interesting.
This is
Well,
not
why
good.
not?
You're telling me-
Humans
you're
as
telling
we
me-
are.
You're telling me in a discussion about gene editing where we're talking about like the possibility of editing people's genetic code and altering their outcomes, we're talking about altering people's outcomes?
altering people.
That's
I don't think
insane.
you're even
You
dealing
know,
with
hang
people
on.
anymore
I
at
have
that point.
something really left field that might change the subject a little bit. What if you're autistic and you want a better way to communicate with your kid, so you gene alter them to have autism?
My nigga, what?
This is
That's
actually,
not a
yeah,
bad
it's actually
idea.
an
That's a really
interesting
cool idea.
idea.
That's a cool
That's
idea.
crazy. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
we talked about this. We said it was probably
Well,
not. a
okay,
good
so
thing.
autistic people communicate better with each other. This is a known fact about people that are on the
What?
spectrum. They communicate better
Wait, so
with
why
each
just
other.
like also
So,
the
if you want to
guy,
communicate
the
better
person?
with your
Can you
child with autism,
substantiate that
then
a
you might
little?
want to edit your kid to have autism.
Yeah, that would be hard to be really
So
like.
wait,
pretty autistic and have a kid that's
wait.
At all.
Wait,
I don't think that's
wait.
true.
What
In fact,
implications
the
of
only
giving
problem with
people
autism
autism
is
would
you have to
be?
live in a neurotypical world, right? So if you make the entire world autistic,
Is that the only
then there's
problem?
no problem with being
Well, it
autistic.
depends on how autistic you are.
No.
Wow.
What
I don't think that's the only
actually
problem.
be like
uh,
to
People
you.
exposed. They're trying to get rid of us.
It's insane.
Crazy.
This man is
I think
crazy.
we have a case study right here.
Oh, bringing out the fucking scans.
Look,
Holy
look,
shit.
I-
wait,
I
wait,
don't
wait,
think
wait.
this
I wanna
is
go back
absolutely
to-
insane,
I wanna
but
go
I feel
back
like we've been
to-
arguing the same thing for an hour.
No, that's
No,
insane.
avius.
I'm just throwing a new hypothetical.
No, I
wanna
like
go-
I like the idea of like if somebody has a disorder and they can identify with that disorder and they actually think it's like it's okay. They're okay with having that disorder. They live their life like that and they want their kid to like share in that same experience. Would that be acceptable?
Yeah, exactly.
No, I disagree
I'm
entirely.
saying in this
No, it would not be
scenario,
acceptable.
in this scenario, the dad or the parent could just take away their autism genetics or whatever. Problem solved. Now they can resonate with their kid more. But then having the fucking
No,
kid.
so-
Yeah,
so the
in
difficulty-
the scenario we're talking about, I don't think that you can like edit the genes whenever you're already like an adult. I don't
Yeah,
think
there's
that's
a few
what the
things-
scenario is.
There's a
No,
few
but
things you
as
can
an
do as
adult, having
but-
that technology, you can edit the fucking genetics. So if anything,
You could
like-
do
Well,
it
speaking
every
about
week.
autism,
You could
like,
do
it's
gene
just
therapy,
said-
right?
And
It's also
you
age,
can't,
it's
you
giving
can't
Anti-
work like,
autism
it doesn't
therapy.
work like
Wait,
Time, one at a time. Thank you.
Not
So
to
just to
mention,
clarify-
bro. Like, oh my fault.
One thing, so there are a few things that can be already we have the technology to do. So, for example, lactose intolerance. There's this one guy on YouTube, I forget his name, but he did a whole at-home experiment, right, where he basically injected himself with the
Oh,
enzyme.
Emporium.
Yes, that one. Thank you. That allows him to be able to consume the enzyme that digests lactose, right? So we already have things where, as adults, you can somewhat genetically alter yourself, right? Of course, it's very unknown.
Doesn't Lyme disease do that to people? Does it genetically alter them or what does it do?
Oh, I'm not that familiar with
It's
that.
like
So I wouldn't feel comfortable.
immune response.
Something makes you not be.
It's an immune response that's different than mine.
But anyway, so the point is that it's possible that if you get far enough in the future, you could genetically alter some things as an adult, even more, potentially more advanced things like, say, muscle growth, maybe. But these are that would be the sooner thing to happen would be altering prenatal, like in vitro, that kind of stuff, right? So that's so it could potentially. That autism thing, that is on so many unknowns because you need to know how many genetic factors cause that, what are related, how do you change those?
Like the question is, you might
difficult.
be able to deal with like sensory issues, but I don't know if you would ever change like
no, okay,
brain
wait, hold on.
development
There
with somebody
is,
who's like already
There
fully
is not
developed.
one
That is a
singular
good point, but there
autism
is
that people
something
have
I have heard
also.
of. Like, there's like something called like, I don't know how this works, but I know something exists that's like gene therapy, and it's like temporary, but like it can like affect your DNA temporarily or something like that. Does anybody know what I'm talking about?
Are you
I've
talking
never heard of
in
it.
regard to cancer therapy?
I don't know. I think so.
That or the sickle cell one, maybe.
There are temporary genetic like fixes that like you have to, if you like, and they have decreased effects, so your body gets used to it. So this is what I've heard. I'm not the expert. I mean, I'm telling you something I don't know a lot
I
about.
believe, right?
I just like Googled it real quick.
Well, there's two instances I can think of, and it was a sickle cell anemia, I think it was, like 3 years ago, and then 9 months ago, I think, on a cancer kid.
That was the first time the chat had been like so quiet. I thought my shit fucking dropped.
we all typed in Google.
Like something real, and everyone got quiet.
All right, well,
So
hey,
I have-
guys, it's been fun. I'm gonna head out. Thanks for coming on, but I do want to bring up one final point, and that's actually Neve brought up right-handedness. And I think this would actually be a good example that backs up what a couple of us were saying about when you get into this weird territory, because we used to think of right-handedness as being bad, or sorry, left-handedness rather. But then like society basically changed and like nobody cares about it at all anymore. Like, isn't that how we should try to approach things like ugliness and attractiveness moving forward, rather than trying to edit it out of the human race? Anyway,
Yeah, except
Tachyon Blue, I'm heading out.
getting mugs and scissors
cosmetic-
is still annoying.
See you
All right, thank you
later.
for coming by, Tachyon. Farewell.
Thanks for having me on.
See ya.
So I think just to respond really quickly to the right-handedness argument. One thing that so right-handed, left-handedness is actually very interesting because there's a question is why do we evolve to almost always have 10% of the population with being left-handed? And one reason is because left-handedness is advantageous in certain situations. One way we can all see this is, for example, combat sports. So boxing, for example, left-handedness can be extremely advantageous, right? And I think that one reason that you see a prevalence of this and that why it wouldn't be necessarily a good idea to completely edit out left-handedness, while it's certain that would be disadvantages in some ways, right, to being left-handed, there's ways you can use it to your advantage. I think there's many things like that where the arguments aren't as good.
Yeah, Vasilius Lomachenko is a fucking beast, dude. I'm just saying, that is crazy. He will punch you in the back of the head so many times.
Bro, I'm left-handed myself, so no, we don't do that. Okay.
Oh, you're inferior? Sorry to hear that.
Fuck you. All right.
I'm gonna just say for a moment. I think there is.
I was gonna say
conversation.
Back to okay, sorry. All right, so I'm gonna say back to the food thing, right? So let's say like back to the consumption of like fast food processing, food processing, and everything of that sort. We may have this thing where it's easier to be like skinny, given that we have this technology and everything of that sort. But the thing is, even
all
with
those
like, the fast food consumption, it's going to be like a thing that's inevitable. Sorry, and that's being like lower testosterone. So even then, like we should
then just give them
like
give them higher testosterone genetics too.
I mean,
you can give them genes that make it so. Give them genes so it makes it so that they are repulsed by the flavor of fast food.
For fast food.
But the thing is, you want to operate as a person. You want to operate as a person.
I'd have to ask at this point what we're even having a conversation about. It seems like we're just doing sci-fi fantasy at this point. If we're talking,
we literally are. So the parallel in this debate was drawn against a movie that is sci-fi fantasy.
So we're having
like GMO foods
panel about sci-fi.
Okay, let's be as boring and as uncreative as we possibly can.
All right, guys.
Fast food consumption.
According to this guy right here, we should just sit, nod, and have a good old gooning sesh. Okay, so I think that we should just all drop.
Absolutely, that would be great. But what I'm saying is that I don't think this is even really an appropriate conversation to be having about eugenics.
About the future implications.
What do you want to talk about? What do you want to talk about?
So he's shutting down the conversation because he's got an agenda where he's against the topic. So that's why this guy wants to shut it down. Get this asshole out of here. If you want to participate in the conversation, if you want to participate in the conversation, at least be honest. At least be honest about your fucking like if you are against the topic and that's why you're shutting it down. At least be fucking honest, you coward.
Vote him off the island.
Let's get Kankelmore.
This is literally the field of bioethics, right? Of how do we?
Is because I saw that the topic was
Ozaz, what is the topic you want to talk about?
Well, no, he thinks this is eugenics.
Oh,
the title of the stream is eugenics. That's why it came on.
I'm gonna be honest.
Appropriate discussion to be having, so I came here to make that point.
If you're not capable of nuance, then maybe this isn't the conversation for you.
It is not.
No, well, then I came here and I see we're talking about genetic engineering of humans, and then
well, hang on, it can't be eugenics because you're not killing them if they never existed.
Oh, wait, I mean, if you want to talk about,
then let's have a.
Well, no, it's not even that.
Then we're having a conversation about genetic engineering.
To be clear, you thought
back, but we are talking about hypotheticals, so I don't know about that.
You thought eugenics was more.
Wait. I want to go back to the Smith's points, right? So you say like, hey, let's get a genetic where like the risk of having low testosterone is preventable, right? But still, you want to mitigate those risks. So wouldn't it be favorite to not this fucking Big Mac, Angus, whatever fucking burger that's out there and shit
like that? Make us have big balls, and then we can eat whatever.
I feel like we already got past.
Exactly. He's saying
we already got past the eugenics talk when we talked about like. I'm pretty sure everyone in here accepted like Down syndrome, for example, would probably be something we would remove from society.
And there's already countries that have actually eliminated that in actually much harsher ways.
But there's still bad effects
about
eating
people.
Fucking Wendy's and shit, bro.
In like modern ways with like abortion, they've like made it like they mandated like abortions for like children with Down syndrome. We're not even talking about that. We're talking about like.
But I don't think they mandated it.
We're
just give you the option.
a human life, not destroying it.
I don't think they mandated it. I think they gave people the option, and nobody in their right mind would choose not to.
We have at this very moment.
We're talking about what is it, CRISPR, whatever.
We're talking about CRISPR.
So my stance on CRISPR would be that we should use it in the cases where there is an immediately fatal disease after the child is already born.
Yeah, congrats. You're in agreement with literally everybody here. That's why we moved to a different topic, because it would be boring and we'd just all be
I don't
sitting
agree with
around.
that. I don't agree with that.
Wait, no. Not everyone here is on agreement.
What if we
Also,
could make ourselves eat
what do you mean after
hamburgers
the child is
forever?
born?
This is a little bit more
Wait. What do you mean? What do you mean by after the child is born? Like, we can't use CRISPR to like edit the genes while they're like a zygote or fetus or whatever, if they're like going through some form of development.
While
And we
you're
want to get rid of some
sperm and nut.
unwanted trait.
Well, first of all, we have gene screening for that, so you can
Yeah, but
choose
should we just
which
abort it, or
embryos-
should we be able to like alter it?
So this is why I'm trying to talk about what we have at the moment. The reason we wouldn't alter an embryo before implanting it is because this technology, we're not confident enough with it that
Do you
we
know
would
where
say
they're-
that the...
No,
But we're talking about
we're
in this
talking about it-
hypothetical. Are you okay with
Hypothetically,
it?
they do 20 years of
alright, then we're
research,
talking
they
about
figure it out, they're like, nice, we could change genetics. What do you think about it?
So also, I have a question about with
Well, I think
screening.
this is science
for example,
fiction.
It's
with,
not.
with screening. So there are.
Well, it
potential
is
people-
because it's not the current technology that we have now.
All right, so there was
if we
a
want to talk about
Chinese doctor
hypothetical,
who
Let's
made
do it to
two
gorillas.
I'm
girls.
aware of
Let's
that.
try to make. Let's try to
So
genetically
why not just
engineer a
extend it to
gorilla
another
that's a
thing?
human.
And
Why
that's
is that not
exactly the
analogous?
point, because if we look at those children, the case of those children, one of the concerns that was raised at the time is that we don't know what the implications for their health will be down the line.
Yes.
If we're speaking about a hypothetical where we can be absolutely certain that they'll be healthy down the line and we can change just about anything about them, then we're really just having a conversation about our, favorite sci-fi movie.
Not really.
Okay, hang on.
I haven't
have
even
a
watched this
question.
movie. It's
If
more
that's
about
your
like
state-
that child's personal rights.
Wait,
and like
I have a very important
No,
rights.
he's
question.
making a
Like,
good point. We
actually
don't know
need
there will be implications that we don't know
Of
about.
course,
that will
but
happen.
like,
Okay,
if that's
so
the case,
it's
like, and we're
wrong
like,
for you
yeah,
to
there's
gene
negative
edit,
outcomes,
right?
then there's no point in the conversation. It's
No,
like,
no,
yeah, there
I-
should be
no,
negative
that's-
outcomes.
no,
we
that's
do
a-
that.
that's a
Hang
valid
on.
point.
This is a simple question I'm about to ask. If you're against gene editing because you don't want to alter physical characteristics or anything like that on your child, would you be okay with circumcision at birth?
No, yeah, we already went over that.
Yeah, we asked this already.
Well, I wasn't there. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, you're fine. Anti-circumcision gang, the anti-circumcision gang. I'm gonna get it
Yeah, we're all
tattooed on
skin
me.
Make the
walkers here.
foreskin
Well, I'm
bigger.
just saying if you're against it
Skinwalker?
from a fundamental level, then you should also be against circumcision for the same reason.
Well, that's the
I mean,
first time I heard the
circumcision
skinwalker thing. But yeah, no, I'm actually planning to sue my parents for cutting off my foreskin as a child. I think that was
I'm
totally
just
unfair. I
saying,
should have the right to do that.
Yeah,
there you
Avius.
go. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying.
What I
I'm glad to have
was like a
cheese
medical
on my steak.
standard. You know what I mean? So it's like, let's say you can get rid of like a medical predisposition to like have cancer, or maybe like
Yeah,
you're
but
gonna
what
have
if
Down
I-
syndrome.
What
you
if I
get rid
just
of
want
that
to turn my kid's
instead
hair
of
red?
Yeah,
What if
I
the
don't
only thing
necessarily
I'm
agree.
changing is
There are-
their eyes green and their hair
that
red?
guy.
I can make those
Yeah,
changes.
Alaguana's
Because
the
if I can
yeah.
circumcise, why can't I make those changes?
Can we
I
be
mean,
realistic?
whoa, hold
Nobody
on,
wants
there's
to
a big
choose their
difference.
That's my
clicks
argument. Yeah,
color red.
I'm
Well,
here
what's
for
the
it.
No one's gonna
difference?
want to.
Okay,
do
when
that.
You're
I have-
literally
Yeah.
changing the physical
Gingers
characteristics
suck.
of your kid's
I've
dick.
got a like
Wait,
so
wait,
maybe we can
wait,
tie
wait,
this into
wait,
like eugenics.
wait.
So wait, what if like we could? So this would be like an unethical example, I think. What if we could make it so that like all black people were actually white? Like we just all their kids are just
Hell
white.
no.
No, not
Mm-mm.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's bad.
Actually, you know
Okay,
what?
This is horrible, but there
Hang
was
on,
a
but what
point
if
in my
they make
life
the
where I
decision to do
probably
it?
would have if you gave me that option as a kid, I probably would have done it.
I'm gonna be
Because I
honest
grew up
with
in
you.
the
I'm gonna be
majority.
It
honest.
happens. It
If-
happens a
if-
lot
because you're
in
a
like
kid.
black communities and people
No,
of color
but-
communities.
If that would have
okay,
happened,
so I live in
Black faces of
I live in
a
like
white
a
person had their
like a
kids
majority
black.
white city, right? And so
Wait,
when I was
which city
young,
you went? You said
I
you
was
were in
probably
Canada.
Yeah.
yeah,
You're in Ontario,
So-
right?
no.
Not in
British
Ontario.
Columbia.
Okay, you're not in.
are you trying to get them
Oh,
to dox themselves? Chill.
So you live in a majority white city.
No. I'm.
Okay,
No, she
so
said she lived
anyway,
in Canada. I live in Canada too. So I'm like, okay, like sure.
Perfect.
where
Trying
you
to
from?
meet up.
Like, never mind.
so I live in a majority like where the dominant identity is like overwhelmingly white. So growing up, I was like one of the only brown kids like around, and I got picked on a lot. So at that time, where I probably would have like if you gave me the option or like presented it, I don't know. I don't think my mom would have done it.
I mean, let's be honest. Then, if we made
you point
everybody,
that out, but like
I'm
you
just
have,
saying, it would have been bad. It would have made my life better.
if we made everybody
like,
white,
you have communities
Quote-unquote
of brown people or of black people who unironically will try to push for their kids to get like their skin bleached or try to like look whiter or all these other
Fucking
things because it's
ridiculous.
like
Oh my God.
You're gonna
you're saying it's ridiculous, but like
technology,
you're
bro.
saying it's ridiculous, but what's different between that beauty standard and just being like, hey, I
Okay,
like
here's the
makeup
problem
because
I'm
makeup
seeing,
like
though.
maximizes how good someone looks.
One's like damaging the
I
skin.
want to let the
yeah,
black
I'm
man
not
speak.
saying
Yeah,
bleaching the
that's why-
skin and like.
There's
Okay,
people who
yeah,
buy
yeah.
cheap ass makeup
That's
that's probably
crazy.
damaging their skin like fuck, but they continue to wear it every day because that's
Well,
like the standard that they're trying to
Hold
live by.
on, has makeup been like shown to like damage the skin to that extent? Like, is that like a
Not
thing?
like that.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe I haven't seen it, but
Not on average. Not on average.
Depends on the
I'm
brand.
pretty
Depends on the
sure.
product.
Okay,
So
gotta-
it's not on
What
average,
product
but
are you
it's still
putting on
people.
your skin?
It's not on average,
gotta
but
be
there's still
proud.
going to be some brands out there that might be like unhealthy for skin over long use, right? There still might be shit
Well,
out there
yeah,
that's
if you
like
bought it from the
not been
99
properly
cent
tested.
store.
There's people who go out there and they inject like literally just oil into their face to try to get like the equivalent of Botox.
Yeah, I don't think
right?
that's the same
But
as
it's like
makeup.
on a
though.
much cheaper
these
standard.
people are like
Okay.
idiots.
No,
We're
but
not
these
basing
are
it
these
on
are all
makeup.
people.
Idiots.
These are all people trying to strive for these standards, right? These like extreme standards we're setting up.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
the
we're like,
existence.
okay,
so
like,
if there was that option,
psychological issues.
I believe this, and like, if you disagree with me, and you would do it, that like I respect that, but I think the existence of that option itself is harmful to society.
Why?
So having the extra
Absolutely.
option makes
What
it
option?
fucking
Yeah.
worse.
'Cause it's-
Like,
it-
come on.
'cause-
Just
then-
melanin levels.
Because it's like
Right.
you're telling the people that there's something wrong with them if you're giving them a solution to it.
I think it should
No.
exist for
Don't we do that all the
vitiligo.
time?
It should
Yeah.
Well,
exist for
what if
vitiligo.
there's maybe there's something wrong with them? Who knows?
I don't even know
So-
if it
Or
should
you know
exist
what?
for vitiligo because that's again,
having-
I just view that as like
Yeah, what happens if
Having
there
a
is something
freedom-
wrong with people?
Yeah, there might be something wrong with
Freedom
it.
albinism.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
Oh,
that also
Alban-
That
makes their
that,
life
can,
harder too.
that makes it hard to be outside because the sun hurts you, right? So
Which is like a
that's
Yeah.
huge
different.
thing. Yeah.
I think
Okay,
like,
okay.
also
Vitiligo
like,
and albinism.
Wouldn't the
Does
albino
vitiligo have
parents want an
other-
albino child?
does it have other
course,
symptoms that
like,
are like
not
not
is it-
just the skin, like this, like the look? Does it
Does it
actually
make
cause
your
any
eye-
like, harm in people's life?
Does it make your eye pop out like
I mean,
ruckus? Like, does that
Given
like,
the
actually
option
happen?
to have that, would you pick it? Because I feel like it would draw a lot of like unnecessary attention to someone. I mean, especially if you
Wait,
didn't
you're
think
talking
it
about
was like a
vitiligo?
beautiful
Is there like
quality.
physical
Yeah.
harm? Let's look that up.
No, but that's
don't
what I'm
know.
asking. Like, if it's just if it's
Avoid it.
nothing more than just like a skin pigmentation thing,
I don't think it. Yeah, I think
I'm
it's
gonna
just
be
like-
honest. I don't know why it would matter. It
Yeah,
should
but
another one of those things
albinism
that's
might
just
be-
like it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's a variant in society.
Yeah.
We should kind of look at it as like an interesting thing that's a part of humanity and move on with it.
Oh well, you're speaking from
Yeah.
a place of privilege there with your
Yeah.
all white skin over
No,
there.
I
buddy.
understand that one because
I
once,
guess so, but
once you
Yeah,
once
no,
you,
no, no,
you
no.
grow up with the skin that looks a certain
keep
way and
skin
then suddenly it
privileged.
looks different, like you're gonna that's
send
not
you a
that
screen
you're gonna want to fix like you're destabilized. You know, your life has changed. You know, your skin looks different than you're used to. So
Wait, what do you mean?
Wait,
So,
let's
like-
say this, right?
If your skin changes.
Also, you're saying it's an all white, but this is just like, shouldn't this be what people should be striving for? Like, the reality is, don't we want
No.
a society where it's like the skin color doesn't actually matter? It's more just like the people moving on.
South Park
Like,
did
why-
it. Another
like,
South Park episode.
Why do we want a society? Why do we want a society where we just accept that actually a beauty standard is whiteness? Why wouldn't we want a society where we just accept that like there's some beauty standards that crop up, but they
Well,
don't
hold on.
realistically
Okay, hang
matter?
on, hang on.
No,
hang on.
Hey,
because
think
there's
about
a
this
problem with that. No,
minority.
wait,
Even
wait,
if
wait,
we're-
wait,
okay,
wait,
so-
wait,
so-
wait.
Let me
There's a
say
problem
something
with
really
that. There's a
quickly.
problem with
Let me
that.
say something really
Because
quickly because again, okay, I'm gonna say this because again, with the genetical editing thing, it's only accessible to. Oh fuck you. Anyways, I was gonna say that it's only accessible to certain people. So like, there's gonna be a certain minority where it's like, okay, I'm still black, and then I can't really strive this whiteness shit, given that I'm fucking poor and everything of that sort. So it's gonna be like discrimination even further.
Let's
there's just like there's
actually,
been like
titles
it's been
to
demonstrated that
standards
people
now.
of the same race will discriminate against each other. Like Irish people were discriminated against, Italian people
Yeah,
were
well-
discriminated against. Being the same skin color doesn't necessarily mean that there's not going to be any discrimination. If we make everybody white, then they're just going to find another thing to like discriminate against you about. So I don't think that actually solves the problem at all. Because
Well, hang on.
you know,
I actually-
oh, you
I
know, skin
don't
color,
think
you know.
actually that would
I
happen,
agree
but,
with
like,
White
that's
Circle that it would
wishful thinking.
exacerbate the issue, especially when you have like pro black communities and stuff. You would just make it a lot worse for yourself.
Call them white circle.
This way,
Yeah.
right?
What if everyone is
What
am I saying? I'm saying that
everyone will want to be
there
black.
are real life people. There are people who believe that like interracial marriage is like bad and that you should have babies with like people
I
of
say
your own
those people
kind,
are
right?
radical, Neve.
I think that's
Would I say that they're
actual
radical?
eugenics.
Well, it really depends on the context, right? Because if a white person says that, it is kind of racist. But black people say it openly all the time, or they shame
white people.
they shame black men who go for white women for like biracial babies. It's totally a thing.
Like me.
So,
Like
I think
you, wait,
that,
hold on.
like, it would be a bigger issue of that issue. It would just be like, okay, not only are we like making the decision, like moving outside of a community, we're like completely removing the need to like interact with our own communities. I don't know.
So outside of the specific,
think about
like,
this,
should
right?
we be able to change someone's race for social reasons? Here's kind of my question. Let's imagine a scenario where it's not specifically for social reasons. Let's imagine where you live in so the reason we have different melanin levels are because of higher melanin levels provide more protection.
It's geographic. It's geographic.
It has to do with how much UV radiation you get.
I just thought of a crazy hypothetical.
So here's my
Hold
question.
on.
So
If you live in a place with much higher degrees of UV radiation, right, and so your lower melanin levels put you at
So
a
we
higher
make
risk
people
of
in
skin cancer.
Florida black,
Should you be able
and we make people
to,
in New York white.
Yeah, should you be able to alter that melanin?
That's exactly.
That's
there you
crazy.
go.
Yeah.
So think about this, right? Think about
To
this.
be honest, to touch on that a little bit, I was thinking like the same kind of like thing whenever you were talking about aesthetics, because like there's a reason why some people have like why some races or some people have like larger noses, like wider noses than thinner noses, is because like you could heat up the brain like in like these extreme cold areas. If I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure that's why we evolved like certain features like that. So yeah, in like an area like it's like heavily geographic, like based off of like the geography of where you evolved.
Like my
I'll give you
The
2
pyramids were built
points.
after these
I'll-
fuckers.
I'd
Think
like
about
to
this,
give 2
right?
points
Let's say
regarding that.
hypothetically.
Well, that's definitely the
Sorry,
case
may I?
in some circumstances, because skin tolerance to like sun. Like I obviously grew up in Canada where I should be more prone to like sunburns, but because I'm like Salvadorian, Central American, I can go out, like I've never worn sunscreen except for on my face.
But the increase
Hey.
notice, though,
Wait, can I say
if your
real
skin is
quick?
Well, we're
darker
talking
in an area
about
with
physical
less sun,
attributes
less vitamin D.
here. We're talking about physical
can I say something real
attributes here, but we're talking about it within the context of race. So it's worth bearing the question: why are these attributes racialized? For example,
why are maintaining
in-
these communities if we can not maintain them and like kind of get everyone together,
Yeah.
like regardless of this?
Absolutely.
Why would we put so much
And-
emphasis on this?
Yeah, that's why
As
cultural
I'm
appropriation
sure
is
we're all
good
aware,
because
race
that
is,
causes the melting pot.
Isn't
I'm not even
it,
joking.
That's
like-
crazy.
Okay,
Yeah,
yes,
Yankee?
I,
I was told that was
think about
evil
this, though.
because I
Think
like
about
cultural
this. Think about
appropriation.
this.
That was
Think about
crazy.
this.
Okay,
Think about this.
so-
Think about
For
this.
years,
Think
and
about
now
this.
it's back
Think about this.
again.
Think about this.
I like that.
If everyone just turns white, bro, like think about all the things we've been through. It'd be all to waste.
Wait, why would
Someone's
everybody
totally
turn white?
turn white.
okay,
Yeah,
my-
yeah,
I
yeah.
think honestly,
What's
honestly,
that?
black skin is
Wouldn't
more
have to-
functional. Black skin is
depends
like
on the
there's more
environment.
You
uses
think
to
you
have
gotta
dark skin. Like
mix
what
all the
we
colors
develop
and get
white
white
skin by
heroes.
like by not needing it. There's no I
Even
don't know if
without-
there's
even
not
without,
much of a
like,
benefit to
genetic-
having white skin.
So
Even
if-
without genetic
That's the
alteration,
solution.
even
We'll
without like
genetically
technology
engineer
to
ourselves to
alter our
have no
genetics,
skin at all.
Yeah.
even without
also, like,
technology to alter our genetics, aren't we going to hit like a point where eventually like we all just interbreed with one another and we just
Yeah.
become like some form of like brown?
No, I'll tell you
Yeah.
why. Because okay,
Wait,
not
what?
to sound like Draco Malfoy or whatever, but like my dad has this like my parents are both Salvadorian, right? And he has this like, oh, you are 100% like Mayan blood, and he like takes it so fucking seriously. And do I? No, I don't give a fuck. Obviously, I'm not going to discriminate on race, but like that exists in so many different ways in so many different
fun
cultures.
history.
Right. And so I really like what you're saying about like in a world where everyone could be whatever the fuck they want. But I want to know like what your thoughts are on that particular like phenomenon. Like,
I think that's
I
what we
think giving honor to your parents would be cool. I don't know, unless you got hatred against them or some shit like that. I don't know.
sorry,
I don't think
sorry.
we care- if we got to that point, though, I don't think race would matter anymore, right? If it just became, if it became a thing where you could walk into like a different climate and you take like your little injectable, and it's like, oh, now I'm darker skinned, so like the sun doesn't affect me as much, right? Or now I'm like lighter skinned for whatever reason.
Oh, that's
Some
tough.
And
in that society, does race ever matter?
Well, there's more. To be clear,
It would
there's- I
become
mean, race is beyond
fashionable
just skin color,
to change
right?
your skin color.
If we
yeah,
all
it could
became
become a
white
fashion
I don't
tomorrow-
like. See, I don't like the idea of it being fashionable, but I like the idea of it being functional. Like if we could alter our genetics so that you could actually like
But
you
if it's
like a
environment-
fucking
Adapt to
chameleon, you could
environment.
walk around and just adapt to whatever you need to adapt to. I think that would be. I would like that more than a society where it's like
We
people
got
kind of just
a few
choosing
million
because
years
like
want
left.
straight
All
up
I can
left
say
is, bro,
If we
all I
all
can say is,
became
bro,
white tomorrow, we would discriminate based on who was white first, 100%. Like think
Yeah,
about
we'll just find something else to discriminate about.
I'm the trendsetter.
money for rich people. It's a very big thing. I don't know. I think that's like kind of
all I
an
can
honest
say is, bro,
comment.
if my son or my daughter wants to be white, I'm slapping that bitch out that nigga. I'm saying like, I don't
That's
want
child
that nigga
abuse.
to like.
Jesus.
I want to
That's
be
child
white.
abuse.
I want to be
That's
white.
crazy.
Like no, fuck
if your son or daughter became white, would you allow them to say the
Same,
N-word
bro.
anymore?
That's the ethical
You
question.
got the fucking car revoked, bro. Like, he,
Oh,
as a matter of fact,
damn.
I'm fucking
Does he get
top
jumped in the
nigga, bro.
hood then?
Fuck that
Like when he
shit.
said,
Could Michael
Does it?
Jackson say
Yeah.
the N-word?
Bro, they getting punched and all this shit.
Did he?
Bro. Like,
That's
he's like
it.
getting fucking beat with fucking Wesley.
Like,
Wait,
you say
say
it though?
hypothetically, you could get every race and like culture in the world to agree on a neutral color for skin. Okay, so one that does not exist. What color would that be?
globalist.
What?
I don't know. It
What
has to be
color?
like
I don't
crazy.
agree on.
It has to be something
Say
fucking
globalist.
crazy.
Say globalist. He said that's not a globalist.
I'm going blue. I went
I'm
to
purple. I'm going
I
purple.
like the color.
Although
I
agree
like
on
the
one
color
color,
like
what is it?
maroon.
Dogs.
Can we go purple?
I like the color
Full
like
fucking
Yeah, I like
Thanos world?
maroon. Yes, maroon.
Honestly,
is
I don't
base.
think
Just
I
go
don't think the
gray.
differences between
Kill the
races are
grays.
actually functionally very different. There are like some differences and stuff, and I mean like there's like a lot of black people in sports and
Whoa.
stuff, but like but they're not that like the
Yeah.
actual. If we could change our genetics in different environments, we'd be changing it in ways that way extend beyond racial differences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To clarify one thing, race is not a. There's no genetic definition for race, right? We will. People will consider Moroccans and Kenyans and Nigerians to be the same race, and they'll consider Moroccans and Spaniards to be different races, even though genetically Moroccans and Spaniards are much closer than Moroccans and Kenyans or Moroccans and South Africans, right? Racial groups are not. They're purely a modern conception. That's why I forget who said it previously that before Irish people would have been segregated against because they weren't considered the same racial group, right? And you can even go back to the 1940s, right,
Find
in
the
Europe, and you
signs.
can see old
Oh,
Mr. H was
God.
talking about how
Nah, bro. I
some
like,
Europeans were inferior than
And
others.
Jesus
right?
was
And-
black.
dude, I like the destiny line on this, where it's like this shit does not matter because at the end of the day, men and women are completely genetically different to one another. But
Wait.
You cut out. You cut out. You cut
Cut
out.
out. You're not. We can't hear you now.
DGG got him.
Lost.
hello.
Sir,
That
Oh
was
shit.
It was they got me, bro.
Literally,
It's like
almost
fucking
Fucking
exactly
Taliban got him.
No, but what's the line? It's like men and women are genetically different, but we can still live in society doing the same things with each other, just vibing. Like, so between a black man and a white man, what's that difference really? Outside
I'm
of like,
I think you should have paid me a royalty for using my name.
was
Not
up?
to mention,
I mean, you should have paid me a royalty. I'm sorry. You said what?
I don't know.
I mean, the only difference is like gentrification. That's it. You know what I'm saying?
Really?
Yeah, fuck gingers. I think we should get rid of gingers. Honestly, I think if you're a ginger, you're probably you're a piece of shit.
I think we need
Leave the gingers
we need
alone.
to have more gingers.
You're,
what
you're,
the gingers
oh
do
hell
to
no!
you?
If you're a ginger, you're
I modify all my
This
kids
is
to
actually
be
an interesting
gingers.
question because
Gingers, fuck.
gingers are more
breed
breed
is
If we could
Ginger.
genetically, engineer the trait that makes somebody become like a YouTube prankster or like an Ice Poseidon type streamer, I
think
would
that's the
100%
only-
be okay with that.
I
think we should make it so that you can when you start dating somebody
Wait.
when you start dating
Don't
when
you
you
think
start
it's based off?
when you start dating somebody, you should have like a pill you take that randomizes what you perceive them as, so they look like as if they had like random generated a character in a video game. So you can't pick and choose what your preferences are. It's completely random, and you don't get any say.
What?
Oh
Bro,
no!
like,
That would be
What?
insane.
Random
You just put-
generator.
This
you
was
just need the character randomization.
generator. Yeah.
Wait,
get
so
outta
it's
here.
not in that
Trying to make
regard.
yourself a 10.
Ultimate diversity. You're a rare spawn.
Let's throw all our medication in a bowl
I
and
don't
just
even know
pick
what shape
four
they
of
are.
each randomly.
So I want to respond to one
saying-
thing really
I
quick.
kind of get what Smith is saying because like a dick is kind of like a mystery box sometimes. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's bigger, sometimes it's smaller. You know, depending on how you're feeling. So
No,
like, what if you could do
at
that
this
with just
point-
people's like traits?
What?
I want to learn to love somebody no
Isn't
matter
that
what
what
they
kinda
look
already
like.
happens?
Can you provide a more specific scenario for this? Because I feel like
Okay.
you guys are onto something funny, but I want
I genuinely feel like there are like I feel like the difference between like a 3 and a 10 like is just all cosmetic, like in my opinion. Okay, I don't think there are many. I don't believe that there are many actually ugly
I
people.
disagree with that.
That's what I believe. So I
That
think
sounds
that
like
so it doesn't really matter as long as you're not like have some weird like defect or something. You're just a normal person. Like I could learn to be attracted to pretty much anybody. So.
Hey, wait, do you remove personality? Like, I know a lot of people say personality factors into attraction, but are you accounting for that in this little?
They have the same person.
Okay.
I find them and I'm attracted to their personality, and then their appearance is randomized.
I hate that line of saying like, I don't like appearances, like personality.
Wait,
you're such a fucking liar. Like,
Samantha, are you just saying that like this is something you would? Are you saying this is something that you would like that type of world?
This is my fetish. I just came up with.
Fetish, bro.
Just came up with.
No, I'm just saying.
Randomizing the looks.
I mean, it's an interesting who in here would be like? Would you date somebody if that was the case? Kind of like you got to know them. You got to know them like personality wise. You get to spend like a lot of time with. Like if both of your personalities could just meet, but never your physical forms, and then you meet physically, and you both just take a pill, and it's just altered completely to each other.
Yeah, because there's going to be so much of that is like psychosexual.
No, that's weird as fuck.
Because
this is the online dating.
It's another
effect
sci-fi movie. What's it called?
Where you like fall in love with somebody online. Like I've never done this. When I was younger, I did. But you fall in love with someone online, and then you meet them in person, and they look a little different, but you're like, fuck it, the connection's there. I don't know.
I don't think. I get what you mean, but I don't think it's just online dating. Have you ever been talking to somebody and while you're talking to them, they become more attractive?
Yeah.
Never.
Like,
I think that's just what this is, right?
Like sapiosexual or whatever.
I don't know if it's exactly what it is.
When that word is, but maybe.
When
I start dating somebody, there's
when
going
you're
to be
turned on by intelligence. When you're attracted to intelligence.
It's not the intelligence. It's not the intelligence. It's for me.
I get what you mean by intelligence.
When I start dating somebody, there's gonna be like all these like really, really complex like conversations about like weird like sexual history, like your like compatible like your like sexual traumas, you're like all this shit, and there's like weird like you have to figure out like that is all everybody's like a really, really different and got like really weird shit going on in their brain there, and if you're compatible in that way, then like you can figure it out, rest out, like that is hard to be compatible.
I don't know about that, but like I've had experiences where I'll be talking to a girl, right? And it's like she's like, it's not that she's unattractive, but I might just not be like attracted to her, right? And we're talking, but then she'll start telling me about like something she's interested in, and fuck, in the past it was like one girl told me that she was interested in like forensics, but like from like not that she wanted to do like criminal forensics, but she liked the process of like putting together skeletons, shit like that for like animals and stuff. And it's like as she talked about her interests, she became more attractive over time, right? Like that type of shit is just like
yeah,
I don't know. I think it's like the more you get to know somebody, you start seeing past like just their physical features.
There is like obviously like physical preferences though. Like, do you think that can overcome like a lot of like all of your physical preferences?
Yes.
Really? No. Okay, because no. I'm talking to a girl. Fuck that.
Okay, we're getting a little bit off track. We're getting a little bit off track. So how does this factor into specifically
genetics,
gene editing?
I would edit I would totally edit. Edit my girlfriend. No, I'm just kidding. That was fucking around.
If you could,
if we were able to alter genetics, we could if we were able to alter genetics, then compatibility might be easier, and then we wouldn't have to date online. There,
bam.
That's how.
I think one thing I really want to I want to say really quick about gene editing. I've heard a few people talk about the potential costs, potential side effects of gene editing, but I think we're forgetting the opportunity cost of not acting, right? Of that of when you're talking about especially preventing illness, right? These times of second thoughts, I don't think that we can afford that, because I think that suffering, I don't think that we should allow it to happen, even if we're saying, oh, this might or this could. I think one thing, we see times when it goes too far, right? Like that Chinese doctor who performed gene editing without any approval, without much research going into it. I think there are ways to do this, but it's important to do this the right way, but not stand in the way of of progress and preventing suffering.
Hashtag
I think you guys are just
free
fucking.
Chinese
I
New
think you guys are just
Doctor
attacking the
about
Chinese
HIV.
doctor because at the end of the day, this man is an
Yeah.
innovator, right? This man
Yeah,
is trying to
this man is a
lead his
fucking
fucking
hero.
field.
No, this man is a hero. Okay, he stopped
why
it from
would
getting
you stop
HIV.
a child from
He-
having HIV.
Would you have said the
Stop
same
it.
thing about Oppenheimer?
Yeah.
No, not even that. It's just
Oh,
like
I mean, he made the
violated
nuclear
some two
bomb.
little girls.
Yeah, he's
lives.
definitely an
Like,
innovator.
Listen,
I
do
know,
we
it's
want to
like
get?
we're
Do we want to get into the World War II debate?
Wait,
I think it was
problem-
justifiable.
hold on.
I think
We
it
should
was
probably
justifiable.
stay away from that.
Stop. Has Toyota talked yet? I haven't heard him talk.
Hey,
Yeah, no,
this is my
Toyota's
voice.
talked.
Yeah.
Toyota's talked.
Oh, really? Okay. I was just.
Yeah,
I,
we should
I
know
had a
that.
microphone fail at the beginning, but now I'm in.
Okay, gotcha.
I haven't talked
Alright.
shit.
Take over, Soyata. Hit it.
All right.
Get him.
I'm,
Get in there.
hey,
I'm gonna
all
dip
you
out.
lefties, why are you against freedom? Why do you hate
Yeah, that's
gene
right.
editing?
Nice.
That means you're against
Yeah.
freedom.
Wait.
Hey,
I am
sure.
against freedom.
That's
Yes,
right.
I'm against freedom.
Give those
Actually,
parents-
the one writing in this chat, like has been the one against the fucking gene editing the most of everybody. So no,
The guy who's not here anymore was.
is it HD right?
Do you think
Well,
kids should be accessories
oh,
to their
it's here.
parents?
Nope.
Why would that make
That's
them
what they're
accessories to their parents?
birthed for.
Wait, hold on. I have a question.
You know what?
Start trouble.
Kinda, yeah.
Yes, I
I
am.
have a
Because the
question. I have a
stork-
question
the
for
kid-
Stiato.
The kid doesn't choose their parents. The parents doesn't choose their kid. It's the stork. It's all random.
Epic.
Wait,
Bird.
the stork's not.
to
You're
reproduce.
telling me the stork's not real? Nah, fuck you, man. That's just like
Wait, is
you're lying.
having an
Well,
attractive
no, the
partner
stork can give you special delivery
Send.
now.
Is
Jesus,
having a more attractive partner
Freedom.
like violating some rule about not imposing
it's a
something on your
bonus.
child? Yeah.
No, but I would
You-
question like, why did you choose a more attractive partner? Did you choose them just because they're more attractive, or did you like make the inherent choice to be like, I am choosing genetically to have a partner which will create the best offspring for me?
Have
And-
you,
and
have you guys
is
ever
either
seen?
of those- Is
Wait,
there
wait,
that-
have you,
Yeah, what's
has
wrong with
anybody
that?
ever seen? Has anybody ever seen the movie The Invention of Lying with Ricky Gervais?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hell
Great
no.
movie.
Yes, okay, in that
Ah, shit.
movie,
No.
in that fucking movie, okay, they like nobody can lie. So if you get rejected, this almost always it is not only because of your looks, because they're like, well, he's like, well, you're kind of the woman's like, well, you're fat, and our children wouldn't have good genetics because you're fat. So like it gets into like the genetics thing in the Invention of Lying. So I don't know, it just reminded me of it. I thought it was interesting.
It was at a sperm
Yeah,
bank,
I would
right?
say, I would say if you're making those inherent, or if you're making those like very, very, I don't know what the word is. If you're making
Precise
decisions
calculations?
based on like, precise calculations on
wait,
like,
but
I need
don't
this
we have to
genetic
talk about the
variation to be like
unconscious?
maximized, I would say at that point, I think you're kind of mentally ill. I think at that point, you're like the equivalent of a guy. No, I'm being dead serious. I think at that point, you're like, it's like we look at somebody who's anorexic and we go, oh, that person's like ill. But then we look at some dude who like will spend 7 days in the gym trying to maximize muscle gain to like get
That's
to
what we're
this
talking about.
ideal that he can never really
Well,
reach.
hang on.
And we'll be like, that's okay.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's analogous.
The
I don't think that's
reality is, if
analogous
you're
at all.
looking at your life, if you're looking at your life from this very specific, like, I need to maximize these very specific characteristics and I need to move from XYZ, like, you could do that, but I think that's kind of like,
No,
I disagree. I disagree completely. I disagree entirely with that. No, that is not the same. Somebody that's anorexic, they're like demonstrably. Stop! Shh. Somebody that's anorexic, it's like demonstrably harming themselves. Like, that is just like not good. I feel like you get to that point where, or like, I think another one. Like I'm not like.
yeah, but what about the guy who doesn't meet
his
his macros? What about the guy who doesn't meet his macros for the day and that sends him down like a horrible mental spiral and then
That's
he's
not what
falling into
happens.
this.
Back
Like,
up.
Okay,
you're saying that's not what happens, but there's people who there's like
talking
you
to
guys
someone who
look
used
at
to
one
be like
side and
that.
it's easy.
It doesn't happen.
Like that shit's fucked.
You didn't bring that up at
Miss.
first.
There's people
Just
who
to hop
have their
on-
lives and there's
No.
bodies for like an ideal reach that they're never gonna get to, right?
Yeah, I feel like obviously if they're like getting fucked up over the fact that they're not reaching the macros and they're getting like super fucking depressed and they obviously need to like look inward. But you didn't bring that up at first. At first it was just the gym bro who goes to the gym 7 days a week to maximize
No, but I'm
his
not
like,
talking about.
gains.
I'm not talking about the dude who's just like healthy. I'm talking about the dude who like this is like a very specific like they have gotten to the point of you're doing this not just for health, but you're like trying to reach something that's like unrealistic. You're like looking at yourself in a way that you're never going to be what you want to be.
This is a completely
that's what it
separate
is.
analogy.
Body dysmorphia,
stopped
isn't it?
relating.
No, I don't think it's
dysmorphia,
separate. And the
no,
reason I don't
it's
think it's
just-
separate is because that's what
called a
motherfuckers
goal.
are doing with their kids.
Well, hold on,
They're,
no,
like,
wait. added that in.
And they're trying to create them. They're trying to be like, I want this kid to be something that I'm building in my brain. But it's not going to be something they're building in their brain. It's a kid.
Have you ever
Okay,
seen
okay, so just to hop
that
on
you
with
probably
Vibes is
should
saying-
gene edit your kid if they have it? Like right
what?
now, I think there's certain things that if your kid has it, you should gene edit them. Now, what I mean by that, I have reading disability. I've had a reading disability my entire fucking life, and it's made my entire life infinitely more difficult than anyone that doesn't have a reading disability. If my parents had a fucking option, they should have eliminated that shit when I was in utero. That way I could have been just like every other fucking kid, and I would have never had a problem reading a book.
Yeah, we're all in agreement on that.
absolute. We can argue like the specifics of whether or not you should do everything, but again, as I brought up earlier, we allow circumcision. So what the fuck is the issue of choosing eye color, hair color? Now, if you want to get into like muscle density and shit like that, when you're an adult, you can go to the doctor and they can prescribe you certain things that alter these things anyway. In fact,
why the fuck do you want to choose the eye color and hair color of a kid?
The LGBT movement, one of the main things is letting kids decide their fucking gender when they're kids. And that's literally gene editing as well. So what the fuck is the whole problem with this? Like,
wait. If you decide I need you to recognize the split you just made right there. One is these people deciding for themselves. The other is like the parents deciding, I want to create my character for my kid, so I'm gonna decide what eye color it has, what hair color it has.
Kids can't decide for themselves.
Nose structure it's gonna have.
You already choose what school they go to, what they fucking eat, what they wear. We already decide everything.
Like kids can
else
act
for
in
our
whatever
kids.
manner they feel comfortable acting, and then we decide from there like what that expresses as, right?
I wouldn't.
Are you saying the parents are deciding that they go to gender treatment? Sorry,
yeah, I think it should be completely parent decision. Like, because we're all arguing about the specifics, we're going down to muscle density. It should be your personal decision.
Avias, so
no, it shouldn't be a personal decision to edit your child for like aesthetic. Okay, so the only person that
it's your kid. Wait, because it's your kid, but it's still a separate entity. It's not you. Like it's not part of you.
Here's the issue. We
Why
already
is it so fucking bad?
Somebody say my name. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
It's bad because sometimes people. Sorry, go for it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, even though it's like the parental's like choice to do whatever, at the end of the day, it's kind of like abuse because now it's like, okay, I didn't get to choose that whatever specific category. No, not category. Sorry.
We choose all sorts of things for our kids.
No, also,
a middle-class
what if the parents?
What if the parents? What if the parents? What if the parents
do something irrational?
One at a time.
Okay, my
I'm
bad.
saying, like, what if the parents do something irrational with their child? Like, what's the solution then? Like, do something stupid.
What do you mean?
Child.
Like,
take their eye color.
What if the father and mother of a 16-year-old girl want to marry her off to like a 28-year-old man?
Okay. What if every time the kid lies, they make the kid's nose bigger?
We have the ability to decide.
Wait. I think we can.
But should the entire idea of gene editing be illegal? Because I can think of plenty of reasons why we should allow it.
It should be very legal.
I've got a
hypothetical.
hypothetical.
I'm not saying the entire idea of gene editing should be illegal, but like the idea of like creating your kid seems like I don't know if we should encourage that in a society.
Idea, but we already do other weird shit with our kids as it is.
We should be allowed to do those other weird shit too. We shouldn't be allowed to do that either.
Would gene editing become a necessity because we're going to live in a society where AI is like ultimately going to be more intelligent than us? So should we be increasing our IQ over time so that we can actually like
IQ is increasing over
I mean, at that point, if AI
honestly, I think you could argue that increasing IQ artificially would like endanger the child because like isn't it like if you have like such a high IQ that like it becomes like you start to not want to live, like you start like realizing the like the futility of life.
Hang on.
Yeah,
IQ has diminishing returns once you get past a certain point. I think the reality is for humans, we're not gonna want to get to a point where we have a higher IQ. We're just gonna specialize. We're gonna have more.
The biggest contributing factor to IQ environment isn't the biggest contributing factor environment.
IQ is a correlatory thing.
It is,
genetics can
like,
be prohibitive in perhaps providing a ceiling in certain disabilities, right? But in general, it's not going to be causal specifically, right? I mean, we can see that, as someone mentioned, IQ has been continuing to increase over several generations, even without significant genetic changes, just because of environmental changes, right? Like everybody having access to full food, right, is a huge difference, right? And especially early childhood development, you see a huge difference in the kids that, right? You can also see today kids that are food insecure or raised in very high stress environments that have much more adverse outcomes, especially when you're looking at correlatory metrics with success, such as IQ or other standardized performance indicators. I think one thing also, I just want to respond really quick to FK in regard to, I think it was totally incongruent with the discussion when he mentioned about should a parent be able to marry their 16-year-old daughter off, right? Because we're talking specifically about the choices made prenatal, right? That's a zygote, that's before birth, right? We're not talking about infringing on our child's autonomy after they exist, right? We're talking about things that happen before. And I think the question really is, should we limit, if a parent has the ability and the tools exist, how much should we limit their autonomy to provide their child with advantages?
I think
as far as it is cosmetic and stuff, I think we should only give them the autonomy to do that if it's getting rid of a disease.
Medical necessary.
But it should actually.
I think the reality is if a kid is showing traits that they like if a kid genuinely has an interest in certain sports, right? I think that there's probably some duty on the parent there to like provide what they can for those sports. The issue though is that prenatal makes it hard because you're now deciding what this kid's going to be good at. You're like going out of your way without any idea of what this kid is going to have an interest in, without any idea of what this kid's going to want to do or any of that, to make these decisions like actively, right? You're not working.
Because that's what my point was on too. Okay, just quickly, I think that it would be a good idea. Okay, so for Jack, I can't talk because. You're good. Okay, so I think that it's a good idea that you brought up sports because I think that parents should have the autonomy, specifically parents of like girls, to genetically modify their children so that they can compete with trans women in sports. There we go. That's my joke.
Okay, very quick question, FK. Very quick question. Okay, what do you think about current sperm banks? One of the ways that women choose what kind of sperm they want is if the donator has had some type of athletic performance, how they've been successful. They are quite literally choosing what traits they want for their child. It's simply not as precise, and I think that's a fundamental difference. The thing that makes us uncomfortable right now is the idea of how precise and how accurate we can make those choices. But we're already okay with them in the abstract way, in the less accurate ways. And I think
as a society we tend to be okay with it. Personally, I don't even know if I'm okay with that. I think on a personal level, I would prefer that even sperm banks, like at the bare minimum, it should probably be the case that sperm banks are giving you like healthy injections, right, from people who aren't having like chronic diseases or whatever. Yeah, but definitely. I don't know if you should be allowed. I don't even know if you should be allowed to be like, I want a specific race. I think it should just be like, oh wait, no, because you can choose your partner.
You can choose who you.
Wait, actually, you can choose your partner. Now that I'm thinking about it, you could choose your partner. But then I would question, what if an extremely obese, overweight woman who never works out in her life, should she be allowed to go in and be like, I'm going to choose the type of partner that I could never get, somebody who's like extremely athletic and is like living this extreme crazy life?
I don't think she should have.
I don't even know.
Yeah,
I don't even know.
She's just gotta have the dough, all right?
You can
live
choose
in capitalism, baby.
You can choose whose dough you put inside your body, and that is the choice we get to make.
Okay, hold on. Dave has to leave. Wait, hold on. Dave has to leave. So, Dave, closing thoughts, go, and then you can leave.
Thoughts. Thank you for the opportunity to talk on this panel. I don't get this opportunity as often. I love everyone. No hate. If I offended you, sorry about that. You can follow my YouTube, HDave. I do funny videos and all that shit. So, peace out to everyone and also all the transgenders in the fucking panel. Shit like that. All right, peace.
Okay.
Goodbye, White Circle.
Jesus.
I was gonna. Here's my issue with it. I think it feels different because it feels like a sperm bank is a different setting. But I'm still kind of against it because even then, if you're making these decisions, then I still feel like you're coming at this from the perspective of you want your kid to be this extra accessory.
You want your kid to have every advantage in life that they can. And I think that's what every parent wants. The only difference is how much control you're giving them over providing it. Because we're not saying after your kid's born, you get to decide, change this, change that if you don't like it, right? We're just saying about before. And I think that it makes it very, very different because you're not infringing on the child's autonomy because your child doesn't exist yet.
Exactly. Okay, I have a question.
We've already gotten to the core disagreement. So when you keep going, and then it's just annoying because if we already know where we disagree, we can't change each other's opinion. If FD feels just doesn't like it, and you feel like it's okay, and it's just
we're giving the reasons why, though, right? That's the point of the discussion. We're giving the reasons why, and
but you're not. Yeah. It's not rational in either of your parts, though. It's you just value different things.
How is
how is it not rational?
Can you explain how both of them are neither of them are rational?
I think that FD feels uncomfortable about people choosing like through a book which parent that they want, like which sperm that they want, because if they're doing that, then he doesn't like what the implications of that are about them as a parent. And I agree. I think that that's a bad attitude to go into parenting like with, but also you're right. There you can think of it like, oh, I want the statistical like best likelihood, and I think it's just you're just different. You have different like thought processes, and you just like the things you care about most are different.
Yeah, but I think that's the point of it, right? Is that the question I think is that first, I think it's an interesting discussion whether should we care about alterations, before infringing on someone's autonomy, right? Because I think it's a much clearer discussion if you say after the kid's born, right? And to me, I don't know if that's. I think that we were getting to something interesting there, right? Because I'm glad to, it was interesting to hear FK was consistent, because at first he was like, and then it was very consistent when he said, you know what? No, actually, the sperm bank not so okay with it, because you're still, changing something even before autonomy. So you're right, the values there is different, but I think that's the argument. Do we care about that? Why should we care before autonomy?
Well, I'm inconsistent in the way that he's consistent, because I think the sperm bank is fine, but I think that the genetic editing, I think this like choosing, just like he said, like choosing your partner, choosing a sperm bank, it's like a little bit contrived and awkward, but you can choose your partner. It's fine. That's just normal. But gene editing, you're being too selective, and if it's appearance, I already said I think has all these implications, and I'm going over this because I'm about to leave too because I'm tired. So all right, bye.
Okay. But all right, nice to meet you. Thank you for coming by. See you, Smith.
Bye.
See ya.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Tomorrow, I'm gonna be on another fucking panel, and it's gonna be pretty good. There's some names on there. It's gonna be a shit show. It's a bring your own fucking topic. It's gonna be a shit show. My video is almost done, but it won't be done tomorrow because I got a bunch of stuff to do tomorrow. But it's good. All right, have a good night, Smith heads. It's late. If you're watching this another time, enjoy your day. I'm tired.